You know, I was gonna, start the show off laughing, but I can't. I felt bad for President Biden last night. I felt like helping an old man across the street. You know how sometimes you're in a room, you go like this? Man, wow, was that uncomfortable. Supposedly 60 million people watched that thing last night. 60 million people saw that thing. By the way, I didn't think that was a good look for America last night. And you got that kind of stuff going on. It was great television. But boy, how about this? Everybody watched the train wreck last night, and you felt bad for the guy. I did. I'm not lying. I did. I felt bad for the guy. And then, today with a prompter and all, he was way better. I mean, obviously. But last night, with no help or no anybody, you did 7 days. You took time off from being president of the United States for 7 days for that thing last night. Wow. It was like a Nick Sirianni game plan. I was like, hey, man. It was like Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni and the difference between the two talking about football. I was crazy last night. So let's just move on from that. Let's come together here today with sports. I tell you, after a scene like that last night that divides our country, the coolest thing about what we do each and every single day, doesn't matter what a political affiliation you have, we come together here as sports fans. It's a common denominator. That's one of the very few I think that's why you're seeing some really good things going on when it comes to sports and the ratings. NHL ratings through the roof for the Stanley Cup Finals. I do. I think that's one of the reasons that Americans just want to get away from all that, no matter who you are. NHL had absolutely killer ratings. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA, all of that, massive ratings with her. So, again, I think it's cool, man. Yeah, I saw that, Joseph. Bronny James. Isn't that funny, Joseph? They gave Caitlin Clark shit for some people bitching about her not being on the Olympic team. She deserves to be on that team, but Bronny James gets drafted. Nobody would have drafted that guy if it wasn't for LeBron James. Nobody would have took him. He stunk at USC. He's not an NBA prospect, but he's LeBron's kid. He's 6 feet tall. You think that's Allen Iverson? The guy had 3 points a game at USC and didn't start. And he gets drafted. He's one of the top 55 players in the world as prospects in basketball. That was another one. But hey, LeBron James is so great he gets his kid drafted. And that's something. That's how good he was, because he had nothing to do with being good himself. Had nothing to do with it. My wife gets on my shit about it, though. She goes, when you want your daughter drafted, when you want to help I get it. Yeah. Okay. Sills, Iverson versus Curry. Who wins? AI. Let me ask you something, Cosmo. Have you ever seen Allen Iverson locked down by anybody? Have you ever seen anybody lock down Allen Iverson? Okay? Have you ever seen anybody defend him? Hey, I saw him drop 49 on Kobe. I saw him put 49 points on Kobe one night. Oh, by the way, we have to with our trademark. Big Cells. 24 days out to the start of training camp. 70 days from today, you will be playing a football game in Sao Paulo, Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. 70 days from today, you're going to be playing a football game against one of the football teams that I like this year in the NFC. I mean, no doubt about it. We're going to take a look at the NFC East here today. We're also going to look at the roster. And I'm not going to go down position for position here, but we're going to go and look at the strength of the team and some of the weak areas of the team. We're going to also, like I said, we're going to look at the NFC East. We'll probably start there with the opponents that the Eagles are going to have to play in the division this year. But it's been a crazy week. There's been a lot said about Jalen Hurts this offseason. Some true, some not, I think. I can't wait for listen, I think we've done all the evaluation we possibly can right now. Okay, I do. I think that all the stuff that we've seen, I think right now, it's pretty much been said. Let me show you something here. And I'll ask a question, but I'll put context behind it. You guys do think that Kellen Moore is an upgrade at the offensive coordinating position, right? And from 2019 to 2022, by the way, please hit the like button. We are trying to get to 200 likes each and every single day. You guys believe that Kellen Moore is an upgrade. Okay, right? He's an upgrade. Okay? He's an upgrade from what we saw a year ago. JM goes, he has more experience. I trust his ability to correct more than what Brian Johnson did. Jack says yes. Correct adjustments. Cosmos says no. Well, let's take a look at him as an offensive coordinator in Dallas before we get into these other topics here. In 2018, he was the quarterback coach in Dallas. In 2019 through 2022, he was the OC in Dallas with Dak Prescott. Sorry for calling you a dumb fuck after watching the debate last night, Sills. I apologize. Good one, Prince. I'm not a Prince. I think that's kind of a backhanded slap, dog. That's a facetious and it's a sarcastic apology. Not accepted. Not accepted, dude. I know who you are. Hey, Prince, I know who you are, guy. You're not fooling me, okay? That is sarcastic, and you don't mean it. You do not mean it. Okay, it is pretty funny, though. Jack, I agree. It is pretty funny. What? Prince's like, what? Me? No, it's not. Yeah, okay, guy. I know, man. All good, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Hey, man, I'm going to try to stay away from that shit from last night. I'm going to do my best. I want to give you guys some, how about this? Some encouragement here on Kellen Moore. Here's who Kellen Moore and what he's done when he was in Dallas. Easy, Xander. I just told the guy I wanted to get out of the room, and now he's, yeah, okay. I got it. Dan, how did Sirianni is unable to adapt a complex system down to the point a moron can run it. I think Moore can dumb it down a bit for Hurts to function in it also. I'm not going anywhere near that stuff. Leave me alone. Hey, it's elderly abuse, man. I'm not doing it. I'm not going there. Trying to do a show. Leave me alone. Oh, my God. So here's Kellen Moore's offenses in Dallas and what he did. 2019, 431 yards a game. He was first in the league. 2020, 371.8 yards a game. Cowboys were 14th. 2021, 407. They were first. In 2022, the Dallas Cowboy offense was 354.8 yards a game. That was 11th. So if you take a look at that, in the 4 years that he was the offensive coordinator in Dallas, 2 of those years, Dak Prescott had the number 1 offense in the National Football League. I mean, that's pretty good. But why was he fired? 2022, they went down to 11th. I think that had a lot more to do with personnel issues that Jerry didn't put around the team. So if you're the Eagles, you look at that and you go, 4 to 5 years in our own division, the Cowboys had the number 1 offense. I'll take that. I'll hire that. That and 20, that's right. I thought it was. I thought that was the year that Dak Prescott broke his foot in New York, if I'm not mistaken. That's right, Sam, right? He hurt his foot against the Giants, right? That year in 20, somewhere like towards the middle of the season. That's pretty respectable to be in the middle of the league losing your number 1 quarterback. And remember, Dak Prescott was under the umbrella of working on a contract, and they were constantly going back and forth on a contract conversation with Jerry Jones. So, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff here. Okay? 2 of the 4 years, he had the number 1 offense in the National Football League. I mean, CeeDee Lamb. Back then you had Amari Cooper. 21, you didn't have Amari. I don't think you did. Or maybe that was the year they jettisoned him in the offseason. Then he went to Cleveland. But that's pretty good stuff. So you should be optimistic. What will he bring? The question mark again, though, this is not really about Kellen Moore here. This is going to be about, can Kellen Moore coach that style of football? I think it's more on Kellen than it is on Jalen. Now, Jalen's got to go out and execute player accountability. But what if Kellen can't teach him the things that he needs to get better? Dak Prescott last year finished second in the MVP race. He led the NFL in touchdown passes. That's a good player. The Cowboys are good. Okay? The Cowboys are a good team run by Dak Prescott. He's good. Dak and Jalen isn't the same quarterback. Hey, John, I know that. That connection between Kellen Moore is going to be the significant thing this year that is going to determine whether or not the Eagles are going to have the success that they need. And I'm talking about how far they're going to go. I think the Eagles, get this, do I think the Eagles are going to put up numbers like they did a year ago? I do. Do I think they're going to go far into playoffs? I don't. And you're going, how do you know that? I don't know that yet. It's June 28th. I'll have to wait and see it. But my prediction is this is going to be a slow start like it was a year ago, like it was in 21 with a new offense. Every year that Jalen Hurts has had a new offense, it struggled out of the gate. 2021, 2023, it struggled out of the gate. Every time he's got a new coordinator. Because remember, Shane Steichen had a year and a half. I keep bringing that up. John says, I'm positive it's going to fail. I'm not positive. I just want to see it. But Kellen Moore's resume shows you that this is going to be a lot like Vic Fangio on the other side of the ball. Is this going to come down to player accountability and player ability? Because I don't really think it's going to come down to scheme. And once again, the comment we made yesterday, the offense wasn't bad last year. It just wasn't bad. That offense was not bad last year. All those guys had really great years. Okay? Unless Jalen turns into Steve Young, well, he's never going to be that. He's never going to be Steve Young. He's not that kind of player. Sills makes sense with the Shane statement and having a year and a half with Hurts. Hey, he did. He had a year and a half. He's the only coordinator that Jalen Hurts has had in the last 4 years that had more than a year to work with the offense. Think about it. And Shane Steichen implemented that offense in 2021, once he took over from Nick Sirianni, because Nick's not a play-calling RPO guy. I'll guarantee you Shane Steichen could not have had the success in 2021 running a pass-oriented offense. You know how we know that? He's not doing that in Indianapolis now. He hasn't reverted back to looking for a drop-back quarterback. He's got Anthony Richardson now. I think they'll try to run a distributed pass attack that Hurts will fail at. Then he'll regress on the offense to some favor of the RPO. That could go. So you're saying they're going to roll back to that. We'll see. But Kellen Moore has had success in the league. You know, I got this because Xander said something the other day. You know, I'm confident this guy's a good coordinator. He is. He is a good coordinator. His resume speaks to it. Now, look, when you get fired in Dallas, that's not an indictment. God knows you could be fired in Dallas for anything. Seals Moore needs to embrace the Hurts' unique skills. If he does, this will help Hurts get comfortable with the changes Hurts will need to make. If Moore gives him some early, he'll gain more later. Okay? I think you got to run the ball early too. I think that's what you're saying, Bob. Okay, he was the favorite to win the MVP through 11 games last year. How did he struggle? You tell me, Martin. Well, then why was Brian Johnson? Get this, Martise. Then if Brian Johnson had a player that was an MVP candidate 85% of the season, why'd you fire him? Why'd you fire him? If the Philadelphia Eagle management didn't think the offense struggled, why'd you fire the offensive coordinator? According to you, Jalen didn't struggle. Well, Brian Johnson was the head of the offense. The organization obviously thought something. He brought a quarterback coach in too. Can't have it both ways, my friend. Either the offense struggled and you fired a guy and you got a guy fired, or you didn't. You can't use that metric for others and not your guy. So hypothetically, if they make the championship or Super Bowl, how do you keep the coaching staff from leaving? You don't. When Nick had Phillip Rivers, he threw to RBs. Moore includes RBs in his passing game. It's up to Hurts to change that part of his game. Suplex, Nick Sirianni and Phillip Rivers. What I don't get is, and I hear Jalen Hurts constantly saying that that's the guy he falls back on because that's Nick Sirianni's guy. Why would you watch a guy that has nothing to do with your skill set? Now, are you trying to pick up the way he has pre-snap reads? Phillip Rivers is sensational at it. Hey, and by the way, do you know Phillip Rivers' father was also a high school football coach too? And Phillip Rivers was coached by his father, who was a high school coach. So there's a lot of similarities there on how he looks at Phillip Rivers. Obviously, totally different skill set guys. But he's a really great pre-snap guy. Hurts hasn't or wasn't drafted to be this guy than trying to make him. Absolutely agreed. Again, the dynamic is going to be these two components. I think Nick Sirianni has nothing to do with the growth. Nothing to do with the growth of Jalen Hurts this year. I think it all comes down to what Kellen does. Okay? I think it all comes down to what Kellen Moore does. I mean, look, again, like I said, he was the quarterback coach in 18. 2019, 431 and a half yards, which was first in the league. 20, Dak gets hurt. They still were 14th at 372 yards a game. 2021, they were first at 406. In 22, 354.8, they dipped a little bit outside the top 10, and they were 11. That's pretty good numbers. That's pretty good numbers for a coordinator. And for all the people that say Dak Prescott's horseshit, that's not true, really. They've won a boatload of games. They've won 36 games in the last 3 years. And I get the postseason. Yeah, I get it. It's not that easy to win in the postseason when you play quarterback in this league. There's very few guys with great records that have played in the NFL in the Super Bowl era that have great records. There's like 4 of them. You understand that? There's like 4 quarterbacks that have great postseason records. The rest of them are all around 500 or below it. Many of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks are below that number. Okay? I mean, it's not that. I think I've told you before, Rodgers is 1 game above 500. And John is right. Rivers is in the era of Peyton Manning, Roethlisberger, his brother even, Eli, and Brady. No question about it. Seals, is Jaylen Carter the best defensive tackle Vic Fangio has had? Let me see. It's a great comment. Is he the best defensive tackle prospect that he's ever had? Vic Fangio. Let me see here. See here. Is Jaylen Carter the best defensive tackle he's ever? Every time I see that Milford Academy, I keep forgetting that he recruited me to go play there when I was in Connecticut. Let's see. Philadelphia Stars. That was a good football team. He was a defensive assistant. Coordinator in Carolina, 95 to 98. That kid Brunson was good there. Colts. I don't think so. Coordinator in Indianapolis from 1999. It's under Jim Mora. I don't think Dwight Freeney was there yet. Houston Texans. I think Jadeveon Clowney was there and J.J. Watt was there. J.J. Watt's a great end. Probably his greatest end. He was the D coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator in Houston. D coordinator from 2011 to 14. I can't think anybody in there. Yeah, probably. Okay, probably. But Angelo, prospect-wise, we're talking here. I heard Zaner talking about that when they were saying that, hey, you'd like to see a little bit more. I want to see a little bit more. You know what? What's the one thing you want to see Jaylen Carter do this coming season? What's the one thing you want to see out of him? Saints had stud linebackers. They did, JM, when he was down there as the defensive linebacker coach. What's the one thing you want to see out of Jaylen Carter this year? I'll tell you what it is. Can you play at a consistent level for 17 weeks? And then getting into the postseason. Can you play like a pro? Last year, he played like a rookie. And when you pay, that's right, not fade. And JM, it's not so much in shape. It's football shape and conditioning. He was super dominant early, but he couldn't keep that up. But that was expected. If anybody expected him, didn't you notice it was around week 12 and 13 that he started fading? Well, that's how many games he plays most of the time at Georgia. 12, 13, 14 games. It was going to be around that number. He was going to start walking back the other way. Every rookie goes through that. You start fading. You know it. And you know it when you see it. And JM's right. They used him wrong too a little bit. No question about it. 800 snaps is a shit. I'll tell you something here too, Suplex. Jaylen Carter playing 800 snaps, that's probably more snaps than he played in his last 2 years at Georgia combined. That is a ton of work, 800 snaps. That's a lot of work for a rookie. I mean, 800? Shit. You're putting a lot of time in. And if you're not in shape, it's going to wear on you by the end of the year. All right. So let's get into, and instead of going down the line here and looking at the Eagle roster here, I'm going to do this. How many people look at the NFC East as being a team that's going to produce two teams potentially to go to the playoffs this year? How good is the NFC East going to be in your eyes? How good will the East be? By the way, Xander will be with us for a little bit at 3:30. Jason Cole at 4:30. Philly Godfather at 5:30. How good? Kyle says I don't. NFC East sucks. I don't, Sills. One team, I think there's going to be a team. I think the bottom team is going to really play well. Washington. JM says not great. Giants are a 3-win team. We're going to look at all the teams here except for the Eagles in the NFC East here in a second. Philly, we will be the only team to make the playoffs this year. Washington might be a playoff team next year. I like Washington. I do. I like what Washington is doing. Giants are going to sneak up. I do not see it. I don't. You want to start with the Giants? Let's do the Giants. I'm going to take a look at the NFC pre-camp East teams as we're 27 days out to the start of training camp. Here's how I see the Giants. Joe Shonen's general manager, in my opinion, is a train wreck. Every single move that guy has made has absolutely imploded on the organization. From the contract extension to the lack of picking up the fifth-year option on Daniel Jones, the contract you gave him, the Waller deal, the allowing of Barkley to walk out the building. I am really trying to sit here as a former Giant fan trying to figure out, what are you doing? I don't see it. I mean, this guy is nowhere near the type of talent level that Jerry Reese was. Jerry Reese put together Super Bowl contending teams each and every single year, and it started on the defensive side of the ball and in the O-lines. How is this guy still the general manager of the New York Giants? I don't get it. Offensively, they have really nothing. That 2022 season where they went 9-7-1, that was a fluke year. They're more of the 6-11 team of a year ago. I mean, you want to talk about one-year wonder? That New York team, and get this, here's where if you're the Eagles and you look at what they did with Jalen Hurts off of 22, 2022, they gave Hurts that contract. You could debate whether or not they gave it to him. You can't debate with Daniel Jones that they paid him on 1 year, and the Giants are trying to do what the Eagles did, but they gambled completely wrong. This guy's been a total, absolute, colossal disaster. I don't get it. Brian Dable, I like him as a play caller, but as a head coach, so he gets into a bitching match with Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale wants to keep some of his defensive assistants, and the guy wants to make changes on that side of the ball because you know why? Just like in Philadelphia, ownership and general manager came down and said someone has to be the scapegoat. Who are you going to put the bullet in the back of the head? And Wink said, I'm not doing it. Got into a screaming match. He got fired. Okay? But that shows you again that coach was not going to sit there and tolerate somebody coming in and messing around with his coaching staff. I give it to Wink. Wink said, no way, man. We are not firing somebody here because you feel the need to justify firing somebody. That's what Philly does. You fired Brian Johnson for no reason. And you made him a scapegoat. And you know what? You tell the lie enough, people will buy it. You keep telling people the lie, they'll buy into it. Brian Johnson sucks. Brian Johnson sucks. No, Brian Johnson was a young play caller. And you hired him with that premise, and you knew that. Get this. I made the comment, why'd you hire a guy that has no experience? The Eagles knew that. So you hired a guy with no experience. He put up a good year, 11 wins. Guys got paid, everybody. Maybe it wasn't the way you wanted the game to be played out. Situational play calling suffered a little bit. But why would you tear that up knowing full well what you hired? You hired him knowing that. Get this. Bleed Green goes, the offense was terrible last year. Well, Bleed Green, help me out here. Okay, get this. Bleed Green goes, hey, they should have been top 3. They were 8th. Under a first-year play caller. Is that good or bad? What was Kellen Moore in his first year? Kellen Moore was first. These guys were 8th. It's not horrible, especially with a guy who's a first-year play caller. And everybody got paid. Twiz goes, it looked like shit. How could it look? If it looked so bad, once again, you guys refuse to answer the question about how they got paid then, if it looked so horrible. You hired him knowing this. You hired him. You knew it, that he wasn't experienced. So what? You're admitting I shouldn't have hired him? Okay. Dude, for a guy who's a first-year play caller, who got everybody contract extensions, and you fired him, and you knew what he was when he hired him. Hey, dude, wasn't like he was an experienced Kellen Moore. He had no in-game play calling reps. And you knew it. You weren't going to help grow him like you did Shane Steichen. Okay? They got all their numbers early in the season. So? And he out-schemed Vic Fangio. You laughed at Brian Johnson and Sean Desai were first-year play callers. I did. But I didn't make the hires. You knew what you hired, senor. And you regretted it after the fact. Is that right? Or in season, actually, when it came to Desai. I mean, hey, I know he's not with any experience. But you were so pissed off at the end of it, you fired him because you made a poor choice. You hired him. Eagle, you keep telling me, Jalen didn't really, I hear John McMullen all the time saying this. Jalen didn't really play all that bad. You know, turnovers, I get it. But he wasn't that awful. So in the first year duty of being the offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, the quarterback, wasn't that awful to John McMullen, and everyone got contract extensions, but he gets fired knowing full well that's what you hired. I don't get how you walk that back. So wait a minute. Did they flip-flop on Brian Johnson? Is that a flip? Hey, senor, is that a flip-flop? Was that a flip-flop? Did the Eagles flip-flop on their decision? That was a total flip-flop, right? Hey, really like this hire, Brian Johnson. We think he's going to be a really good play caller one day. Shit, I heard Tony Romo and people on the air going like this. This guy's going to be a head coaching candidate someday. I think Brian Dable's a good play caller. Do I think he's a good head coach? No. I'm not exactly sure what the expectations are for the New York Giants in 24. What could they possibly be? I mean, and how long are you going to stick with Daniel Jones? Drew Lock going to be your guy? Coming off an ACL too? I mean, no Barkley? Where are you going? If you're the New York Giants in the NFC East, where are you going? I don't get it. And now you're going to replace Saquon Barkley with David Singletary because he played in Buffalo with Brian Dable. Is that right? Is that the guy? David Singletary? He's now down in New York now? Is that your running back and your replacement for Saquon Barkley? Hey, look, I like the draft pick of Malik Neighbors. I like the kid out of LSU. I do. I think he's good. But who's the quarterback getting them the ball? The New York Giants are a train wreck. They added John Runyon in the O-line. That's going to be a helpful factor. Is Drew Lock going to really be the starting quarterback by midseason? I think so. Now, look, their front three, and if you want to go front four, is pretty good. Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. Now you add Brian Burns. It's a pretty good group. But as you walk back towards the back end of the defense, linebackers ain't that hot. In the secondary, you're like, you got rid of Xavier McKinney. He's now playing in Green Bay at a $17 million deal, and you didn't want to pay him. Why? What is the New York Giants doing? I don't see it. No, now also too, Waller's now retired. Where are the New York Giants going? Like, I see no future for them. Hey, maybe they surprise people. But where are the New York Giants going? I say this to you. What did somebody say? The Giants are a 3-win team? You're going to have a new head coaching job opening when it comes to New York Giants at the end of this season. There's going to be a head coaching opportunity. And it's going to be in New York. Is that job maybe that Bill Belichick wants to take and go back finally to New York, where he cut his chops really as one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time and try to turn that thing around in New York? He always coveted the New York job. Would that be an open for him? Maybe. But when you're 70 years old, man, do you really want to go in there on a 3-win team and try to turn that bitch around like that? I don't think so. Kimberly, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dable should go back to Buffalo. I'll tell you something too, JM. If Brian Dable gets fired and Kellen Moore does a good job with Jalen Hurts, I would like to have the guy who coached Josh Allen coaching Jalen Hurts. That's something to keep an eyeball on. I would not mind Brian Dable coaching Jalen Hurts. Run pass option guy? Why not? The best he looked was 2 years ago. I think Joe Barry did a nice job with him down the stretch run, but it was Dable, in my opinion, who really was the guy up there that kind of had some good impact on him as a play caller. I mean, Brian Dable coaching Jalen Hurts? Yeah, okay. He is going to get fired at the end of this year. I don't see it. I got the Giants winning 3 to 5 ball games this year. How's that keep your job, dude? And this guy 2 years ago was the NFL Coach of the Year. That shows you what that award means. Doesn't mean dick. 3 to 5 wins, New York Giants. Wow. Sills, the Donald Trump of sports free speech. 486, thank you. Appreciate the super chat. All super chats get read and sent to the top. That's the only way you get me to respond. I like the American flag on that thing too, pup. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Hoss. Didn't Dable coach Jalen? Where would that have been? Was he there at Alabama? Was he an assistant coach at Alabama down there? He may have been. Nice job, Elizabeth. Nice job, Elizabeth. Alabama, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. 2017. Okay, cool. I didn't remember that. All right. You want to do Cowboys or do you want to do Washington next here? Better. Hey, listen. I know it was a big topic last night. I get it. I get it. I watched it. I mean, hey, it was very uncomfortable. You want to do Washington? Joseph Smith says Washington. You want to do Washington? The cow pukes. Let's do Washington. We'll save the Cowboys for last here. Washington Commanders. Joe, you've had 7 straight losing seasons. What happened to the Washington Redskins? What happened? Some said, Sills, you slipped up and said Redskins. I didn't slip up. This show's not politically correct. You lost your identity since you've lost your name. But Sills, that doesn't work here. You got rid of the Redskin name. You got rid of your identity. That Washington football team in D.C., their fans don't even recognize it. Goedert goes, they sucked as the Redskins too. They did? They got 3 Super Bowl rings. How many you got? I'll match their Hall of Famers up against your Hall of Famers any day. Any day. I mean, Washington was an elite football team under George Allen. And when George Allen got there and Lombardi got there in the early 70s, Washington didn't lose. They went from like 73 all the way through the mid-'80s. And they were a great organization with Bobby Beathard, Joe Gibbs, George Allen, Vince Lombardi. They were good. They were a good football organization. Did great jobs in free agency. They drafted well. Washington Redskins then were fantastic. It was the best O-line in football. Eagles Hall of Fame defense is smoking Washington's Hall of Fame defense. Well, I'll tell you what. You got a Hall of Fame quarterback? Let's see. They got one, I think. It's Jurgensen. Jurgensen was also an Eagle, if I'm not mistaken. They got a Hall of Fame running back, John Riggins. Riggins was a Jet, too, but he did his damage in Washington. Got a wide receiver, Hall of Famer, Art Monk. Do you? You do? No, you don't. Quick's not a Hall of Famer. Halfback is Harold Carmichael. Offensive line. The left guard is a Hall of Fame guy, if I'm not mistaken. That was on the Hogs. Darryl Green is a Hall of Fame DB. One of the great cornerbacks of all time. You know, you go back in the day, too, Baugh and them guys. One of the very first organizations, really. And one of the very first organizations, if you want to go back to really, Washington had a whole ton of guys back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that you would say. Tommy McDonald, fantastic ball player. And again, one of my favorite players of all time, Concrete. Actually, it's pretty close if you think about it. Pretty close. Sills, what do you think of Sean Taylor? Would have been the greatest Washington Commander defensive football player of all time. Fred Smoot was good. Absolutely. Okay. Charles Mann was good. Dexter Manley was good. They had a bunch of really good football players. That was a really, really great time in the NFC East. The hiring of Dan Quinn. By the way, let's do this. Let's walk back here a little bit. I like Adam Peters, the new general manager. I think he's doing some good things there. I think Josh Harris has hired some good folks in his first year there. We're going to find out a little bit how much Wilbur Marshall was sensational there. Came over from Chicago, but he played some really good years in Washington. Some good. Chris Hamburger was there, an unknown guy. But I like Adam Peters. Adam Peters kind of reminds me a little bit of being able to look at the new with the, the analytics and hiring of young guys. I like Adam Peters. I think he's one of the up-and-coming general managers in the National Football League, and I think they're doing good things. Now, the hiring of Dan Quinn, I don't know. I don't know how good that is. I mean, Sills, what do you make of Dan Quinn as the head coach of the Washington Commanders? I don't know. Because when they hired him, I was like, they wanted the guy in Detroit, that guy Johnson. They wanted him to be the head football coach, but he turned it down because he wanted $17 million. If that shit owner steps out of the way, and I'm talking about the new one, Angelo says, that could be good. I agree. I agree. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I think they got the right guy. We'll see. I'm sitting here on June 28th. He hasn't played it down yet. But I like the LSU/Arizona State kid. I think of all the quarterbacks that got drafted this last draft, I think, in my opinion, when I look at him, I see some pretty good things. And supposedly right now, they're saying some fabulous stuff about him. Now, again, it's pajamas. Washington has cap space, too, so they're going to be able to do some things. Maybe there's going to be a cap casualty during training camp. How about this, too? Cliff Kingsbury, the hire. And Xander and I talked about this a little bit. Cliff Kingsbury wanted to fire Jeff Stoutland. No way, guy. As much as I like Cliff Kingsbury, and I think he would have been a perfect fit for Jalen Hurts, I'm not firing that offensive line coach. Not a chance. Dude, that football team could go 0-17, and I'm not firing Jeff Stoutland. No way. His track record is too good. Hey, I'll make this comparison, and I've done this before to you guys. Jeff Stoutland is as good a coach as Jim Johnson ever was in Philadelphia. I think he's your greatest assistant coach you've had in the last 40 years. That guy produces Hall of Fame dudes. He makes Hall of Famers. He makes people rich. He makes people want to come and play in Philadelphia that are veteran guys who want to resurrect their career or want to have a better career. They come here because of him. Look, Mekhi Becton didn't come to Philadelphia because of any other reason than Jeff Stoutland. That's all you need to have in the building. I don't give a shit. When you're a pro, how much you paying me? How much you paying me, and are you good? Is my coach going to be a coach that's going to get the best out of me? I don't care if it's Carolina, Chicago, Tennessee, wherever. Hey, I'm going to go where Mike Munchak is as the offensive line coach. I'm going to go where Jeff Stoutland is. I'm going to go where Callahan is in Tennessee. And I'm not talking about the kid. I'm talking about the father. I'm going with those guys. Why? They're the best coaches in the sport. Best coaches. Okay? You can't deny it. Lane has been good for 20 years. Dude, that entire offensive. Look at what you have in the O-line. You got a 7th rounder who's the second highest paid left offensive tackle in the sport. You got the highest paid guard who was a 2nd rounder. You got a 2nd round center now. You just got a guy retired that was a 5th rounder. Your right guard is probably going to be Tyler Steen. He's a 3rd rounder. And you got the 5th pick in the draft over at Lane. Look at the variations that you have. You have a high pick and you have one of the lowest picks in the draft. And get this, they're equal and they're formidable. Both your tackles, 5th pick in the draft, 7th rounder. And they're just as good as one another. Can't beat that. That means that guy finds players in any round. It doesn't. I'm not saying he found Lane. Okay, I'm not. I'm saying, but he knows how to work Lane. He knows how to work him. Seals, would you hire McVay or Stoutland? McVay because he's a play caller. But get this, that's compatible. Seals, McVay or Stoutland? Damn, that's a tough one. And I think Sean McVay's the best head coach play caller in the league. That's a tough one. Right? Sills, why should I be high on Vic? He got canned in Denver and was going to get canned in Miami. Because, hey, in Denver, he was a head coach. He wasn't the defensive coordinator. He was the head football coach. It's all right. He drafted Patrick Surtain. He knows talent. Dude, being a coordinator, and like this, I would hire Frank Reich in a minute as an offensive coordinator. Would I hire him as a head coach? No. Would you hire Josh McDaniel as a head coach? No. Would you hire him as a coordinator? Yeah. Imagine the knowledge he has working with Brady for 18 years. Geez, I'd like to have some of that. How about Miami? Well, Sam, they broke sack records in Miami with pressure. All those great Miami Dolphin football teams that they had in the 70s and 60s and 80s and what have you. His first year as a defensive coordinator, he was the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league. And he goes down to Miami, and they break the franchise record for most sacks. I mean, is that bad? Saquon's going to be a savage in Philly, unstoppable. Let's wait and see on that one. It's funny, I'm going to make a point to you on that. So I like Cliff Kingsbury. Hey, I'll tell you what. That Johan Dotson kid, is Terry McLaurin the most underrated player in the National Football League? I mean, when you talk about the top flight wide receivers in pro football, Terry McLaurin has to be put in that conversation too. That's a pretty good-looking duo there. I'll tell you this. That's a better duo in Washington. The Washington Commanders have a better wide receiving core than Dallas does. Got a better wideout core than what the Cowboys do. I mean, Brandon Cooks. That's the other option in Dallas. Johan Dotson and Terry McLaurin are better than the Cowboy wideouts. Guy puts up big numbers, great in separation. Yeah, get this. 11 thinks that Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb is better than Johan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. What has Brandon Cooks done? He's been a colossal disaster in Dallas. Are you trying to tell me that Dallas has a number? Who's their number 2 guy? Brandon Cooks? Brandon Cooks. He thinks is better than Johan Dotson. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. Michael Gallup, is he gone from Dallas? I don't know. I didn't see him a year ago. Is Michael Gallup still there? He is. Wake me up when he's not hurt. I'm going to throw a number at you here, and I want you to tell me who this player is. Who is the only running back in pro football in the last 5 years to have 30 touchdowns rushing and 30 touchdowns receiving? Do you know who he is? Do you know who he is? Christian McCaffrey. Joe Mixon. Sproles. I think McCaffrey was hurt. Let me take a look at that. So I want to make sure. McCaffrey, he might be another one. I thought he was like the only guy. Let's see something here with I want to be factual here. Christian McCaffrey stats. Barkley. What are you, high? Let's see here. How many touchdowns he's had in the last 5 years. That's 28, 30. And let's go over here. Receiving 7, 4, 1, 5, 6, 11, 13. No, he doesn't have 30 touchdowns receiving and 30 touchdowns rushing in the last 5 years. Christian McCaffrey does not. Who has 30 rushing touchdowns in the last 5 years and 30 receiving touchdowns in the last 5 years? Derrick Henry, no. You got it. Austin Eckler. Of all the guys that have been hired and signed, you talk about one of the greatest under the radar. Let me take a look at his numbers. Austin Eckler did this damage out in Los Angeles. I don't remember that. He was all pro in 2022. I mean, Austin Eckler stats, kind of crazy in a way. But, I mean, look at this. Last 5 years rushing, 5 touchdowns last year, 13, 12, 11, 3. Okay? Then you go over to receiving. And Eckler had 8, 5, 6, and 1. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I would never have put Austin Eckler's name in that, and I didn't realize he was all pro in 2000. He was all pro in 2022. That's a pretty good-looking team there. If Jaden Daniels is anybody, and their offensive line can hold up, this is why I think they're going to fight for the NFC East. Dude, 11. He's had 30 touchdowns rushing and 30 touchdowns receiving in the last 5 years. You can't dispute production. Okay? You put him in the backfield, and you got those two wideouts. Plus, what they got at tight end, they signed that kid from K-State, Ben Sinnott, and they put Zach Ertz in there. I'll tell you this, they got better depth right now in Washington at tight end than you do. Or as good. That's pretty good stuff. They signed Bobby Wagner, and they also, on defense, got Frankie Louvu. They got the best linebacking core in the NFC East. That's a pretty good-looking roster. Question's going to be Dan Quinn, and what can Cliff Kingsbury do, and Brian Johnson do with Jaden Daniels? Hey, Twisco stats. Yeah, just like your guys. Stats. Just like your guys. Oh, I see. That stats doesn't apply to your dudes, but it applies to everyone else. Try to keep the same metric for everyone. You go places doing that. All your guys had was stats last year, too. They didn't do shit with it. They got paid for it. So wait, okay, it's not stats in Philly, but it's stats in Washington. Oh, all right. Yeah, or okay. Sills, who's Washington's edge rusher? That's going to be a factor that Dan Quinn's going to have to figure out. No question. Their linebacker, and they got rid of the guy, the interior tackle. They sent him to Chicago. Got rid of Chase Young. He's now down in New Orleans. That's going to be an issue on getting to the quarterback. I think they're a little light in the secondary, but that's a good-looking roster, man. I told you. They're building a nice team there in Washington. Adam Peters is doing a nice job. I agree. I think that line took a hit, and it's going to be about getting to the quarterback. Hey, Spin goes, Eckler's washed up. If Eckler's washed up, so's Barkley. He's been hurt 2 of the last 4 years. Is he washed up too? No, he'll be great. Okay. I just showed you a guy that's been more productive than Barkley in the last 5 years on getting the thing getting the pigskin in the end zone. Barkley don't get the pig in. He doesn't get the pigskin in the end zone. This guy does. He was in with Brandon Staley. With Brandon Staley. Pretty good stuff, man. Again, it's going to be interesting. I probably think they're going to look for an edge rusher. I see us having a winning record means nothing in the last 3 years because Washington has better stats. My friend, better stats? I didn't say they had better stats. I said they have a good personnel group setting. I never said they're better than the Philadelphia Eagle roster. Who said that? Where did you hear me say that? Who? I mean, I never said that. I said that's a pretty good-looking group. Sills, I think the Eagles' offensive line will help his numbers. I don't. Because they're not going to use him like that. They didn't. Kellen Moore didn't use Tony Pollard like that in Dallas. Why would he use him like that in Philly? He's not going to get 30 carries. He's not going to get 20 carries. He's going to get maybe 9 to 10, 11. If you think they're going to don't they talk about explosion plays? Handing the ball off and RPOs is not up their skirt. That's not what they want. Dude, if Saquon Barkley gets over 1,300 yards this year, I'll be shocked. And quite frankly, that's not an upgrade. That's what you do anyway. Last 2 running backs you've averaged 1,300 yards. And for whatever reason, you get away from it in your play calling. Crazy. I think this team's going to fight out for the NFC East. And it's all going to come down to that quarterback. If that quarterback looks like C.J. Stroud, Washington's going to be a problem. Washington was a problem for you last year. I think they're better now. I think they got better coaches. Kingsbury is a great hire. Barkley easily 1,200 yards. That's not an upgrade. Last year, DeAndre Swift had 1,100. Year before that, Miles Sanders had 1,300. How is that an upgrade? How's that an upgrade? Okay. Here, let's take a look at that. And I actually think that that's not true. Okay? I do. Tony Pollard's stats, and I told you, here. 2020, Tony Pollard had 101 carries. In 2021, so let's do this. He was the offensive play caller from 2019. Let's see here. 86, 101, 130, 193. He wasn't there in 22 or 23. So 4 years. That's right. Let's see how many average carries that Pollard had. 101 plus 86 plus 130 plus 193 equals divided by 4 equals. So he averaged 114 carries a year divided by 17. He averaged 6 carries a game in his 4 years under Kellen Moore. 6 carries a game. 21, 22. Okay. Well, he was a coordinator in 19 and 20 also. Okay. You count all the years, not just 1 or 2 big years. He was the OC from 19 to 22. Have to include Zeke? So wait a minute here, JM. You think they're going to have what? Okay, so he averaged 6 carries. Okay, let's take a look at Zeke. Zeke wasn't on the team last year, right? Ezekiel Elliott stats. So Pollard averaged 6. $244. There's not a chance in hell. There's not a chance in hell Saquon Barkley's getting 237 carries this year. There's no way he's getting 244 carries. Not a chance. Not a chance. It's not what you do. The most you're going to have is 220 carries. Now, you're saying you're going to take targets away from your wideouts then, and you're going to be more of a run-dominated. So wait, what you're saying, JM, is that they're going to be more of a run-dominant team. Is that what you're saying? Xander brought this point up, and it was great. Question's going to be, because I think he asked Paul this question this morning. I think he's Barkley. We're going to be balanced? Since when? The hiring of Kellen Moore? I can't say that on June 28th. I know that. Howie said 300 touches, so we'll see. Saquon Barkley, has he ever had 300 carries in his life? Has Barkley ever carried the ball 300 times in his life? Let's take a look at that. Saquon Barkley stats. Let's take a look at that. No. He's never had 300 carries. Most he's ever had is 295 2 years ago, and in his first year, 261. Saquon Barkley did not have 301 carries in 2019. He did not. I just looked it up. We'll see. Hey, get this. I'm not talking about pass receiving. I was talking carries. I wasn't talking that. Okay. Let's do the Dallas Cowboys now. Here's my Big Seals takeaway for 2024 in the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what all in means. I have no idea what all in means. None. No idea. Get this, JM. And after the 2019 season, take a look at Zeke's carries after 2019, all the way to 22. Look at his carries. They went down under Kellen Moore. Did they not? Just to make a point one last time before we get to the Cowboys here. Am I right, JM? Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke Elliott stats. Here's under Kellen Moore. Carries. From 2019 to 22. Went from 301, 244, 237, 231 to 184. Oh, wait, not 184 because he wasn't the primary carrier. But quite frankly, you got to remember something. They had a running attack. They ran the ball more than you did. You didn't have running backs with those kind of numbers. And in that process there was only 2 years that Zeke Elliott had 1,000 yards rushing. In 5 years, he had 1,357 in 19, and he had 1,000 yards in 2021. And here, just take a look at what he was doing, too, when it came to yards per carry. They weren't very effective. You don't have a 1,000-yard rusher in 2 of the 5 years that you give a guy the ball 244 times? You got to be kidding me, man. You don't really believe that the Eagles are going to give him 250 carries, do you? You think Saquon Barkley is going to carry the ball more than any back since Brian Westbrook? No way. That's not why you're paying Hurts $50 million. You want him to be a passer. So wait, did they bring in Kellen Moore for Saquon Barkley, or did they bring him in for Jalen Hurts? Who'd they bring him in for? Bro, no way. I'll agree to disagree. Let's get to the Cowboys. All in. That's the theme of the 2024 Dallas Cowboys. I have no idea what the hell that means. None. All in. No idea what that means. 0 work in free agency this year. Now, I'll tell you this, the Cowboys, since 2013, are 106-73, 3-6 in the postseason since 2013, with no advances to the NFC title game or even a divisional round. On paper, the Cowboys have less talent. Prescott was second in the most valuable player award race last year in 2023. Led the NFL in passing touchdowns. Last year in 2023 with Mike McCarthy as the play caller. Your running game is atrocious in Dallas now. What's the guy's name? Rico Dowdley? Who's Rico Dowdley? That's your running back in Dallas? Rico Dowdley? CeeDee Lamb had a great year. 1749. Again, he's a slot receiver, though. That diminishes those numbers. It's like telling me the right tackle position on offense, he's more valuable than the left offensive tackle. It's not the case. He did have 135 receptions and 12 touchdowns. It's a hell of a year. It's a hell of a season. 1749. 135 catches he had. I know, Spider Rico, right, Kyle? Spider Rico. Rico Dowdley. Mike Zimmer's a hire. He's kind of in the old school of like a Vic Fangio kind of guy. He does have a Super Bowl ring. He was on that Switzer staff back in the day as a DB coach. Micah Parsons in the last 3 years has 40 and a half sacks. Okay, so my problem with him is that he's a one-dimensional type guy. The Dallas Cowboys, one more time, I'll say it again to you. I don't see it. I really just don't see it. I mean, I don't. JM goes, the Cowboys didn't improve anywhere. All their moves were lateral or downgrades. It's completely. That's a factual statement. Where'd you get better? Where have the Cowboys gotten better? Who's your number? Hey, by the way, I will say this. Okay, look, that kid Jake Ferguson. Would you take Jake Ferguson over Dallas Goedert? 71 catches, 5 touchdowns, 761 yards. You know why I would take him over Dallas Goedert? He's reliable. Dallas Goedert is not reliable. He's not reliable. There's always an injury with him. Every year that he has had the last 5 years, he's missed significant time. Availability, too, has to be part of the equation. Just because you're Bo Jackson and you got more talent than Austin Eckler still puts up 30 touchdowns in receiving and catching and puts the football in the end zone. He's more productive than Bo Jackson. Is he a better player? No. Is he more productive? Yes. Production has to matter, friends. You can't just assume something and call him better than the next guy when the guy's outperforming him. I mean, well, Goedert's a better player. Well, he's not outperforming him, and he's not outproducing him. What's he doing? Chills, are you saying that you think that Jake Ferguson's a better ball player? No, I'm saying he's a more productive player. Last year, he was a more productive football player than Dallas Goedert, by far. And Dak Prescott also was more productive than Jalen Hurts. He finished second in the MVP voting. They've got some players. And by the way, this Tyler Smith is probably the best offensive lineman they have now. And it's probably taken the baton from Zach Martin. And I like Zach Martin. But I think this Tyler Smith guy's probably a better football player now in their offensive line. His production is because of Dak. Well, someone's got to throw him the ball, dude. Goddard's injuries were mostly flukes. Hey, Ben, he's injury prone. He's injury prone. He misses ball games. Were flukes. 5 years in a row, flukes? They'd be like, Washington and the Cowboys have better linebacker regular season stats. And I'm like, where were the playoff stats the past 2 rounds in 30 years? Hoss, your linebackers are the worst in the league. It's true, though, Sills. They were fluky. Jack, I'm not denying that. Here, Jack, let's do this with Goedert here. I'm sorry I'm doing it on the phone here. 21 was a okay. So let's take a look at that. Dallas Goedert stats. Let's take a look at Dallas Goedert here. Dallas Goedert stats. Okay. See how many games he's missed in the last 5 years. Dallas Goedert, Eagle tight end stats. Okay. Let's see how many ball games he has missed in the last 5 years. Okay. So in 2020, I believe Zach Ertz was still on the ball team. But in 2000, since he's been in the league with 16 games, and you can't really look early because he probably didn't get an opportunity to really play a lot because Zach Ertz was still in the building here. When did Zach Ertz leave? 21? That sound right? It was that really crazy moment in 21. So let's just go from 21 here. So he missed 3 games in 2020. When Ertz got hurt, he missed 8 games. In 2021, he missed 3 games. In 2022, he missed 5 games. In 2023, he missed 3 games. I mean, you can count on this guy to miss 3 to 5 games a year. Those aren't wear and tear injuries. I don't give a shit what they are. Those are lack of availability injuries. Jason Kelce's missed 1 game playing center with all that traffic in the middle. That's durability and reliability. A JM. You keep and listen. Once again, are you available to play on Sunday? I really don't care what the thing is. Are you playing Sunday? Yes or no? No. Okay. Can't count on you. I mean, Jalen Hurts the last 3 years has not been able to rely on Dallas Goedert whatsoever in stretch runs. He's been injured. He hasn't helped the offense. Ben goes, is he injury prone or is he unlucky? Well, you can pick whatever you want to pick. You can pick whatever you want to pick. You can say whatever you want to say on that. Yeah. How about this? Aren't we all sitting here about time ready to do this now? Hey, man, this guy's he's making $15 million a year, too. You got to get more than 50 catches out of him, don't you? Wouldn't you think? I look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to wrap it up before I get to Xander here. I look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I go, I don't see it. Where are you getting your production from? Rico Dowdley? That's your running back? Your O-line's not as bad as I thought. But Brandon Cooks? What's he done since he got to Dallas? All right. Let's get to Xander. He's had a really great week with guys coming on that program. Birds 365. They've done a really nice job. Paul was great today, by the way. Not that I'm a fan, not he's a fan of me either. So let's be fair there. But he was pretty good today, man. He said some really good things. He really does. And he's one of the better guys, too, when it comes to covering a National Football League team. Hey, what's your take on Dallas Goedert, dog?
I think they better start using him more. He's a very good tight end. I think that's underutilized. I don't know if it's a product of just the way that Jalen Hurts plays ball, or if it's the product of the offense or the play calling or what it is. But, you got a guy who can he runs almost like a receiver in a way. He really runs the ball well after he catches it. I think you got to use him more. I think the whole offense opens up if you use that middle of the field more. Hurts didn't do it last year. He did it in 22, but there was a different style of an offense. So I think if you get back to that, it makes the life easier of everybody. It makes Jalen's life easier. It makes A.J. Brown's life easier. It makes Devontae Smith's life easier. It makes offensive line and Saquon Barkley's life easier. You got to use the guy. He's a talented player. But the one knock on him is he gets hurt a lot. A lot. And your best ability is your availability, obviously the cliche. And he's got to stay healthy. Now, he's a physical player, so it's like even last year, he got hurt from being physical, right? Like he stiff-armed a guy and got hurt. So I don't know what you can do about that. I like the physicality, and I don't want you to change being physical because you got hurt. You got to just, I guess some people have the injury bug bad, but I love the player. I think he's a great player. I think he's underutilized in this offense, and I think I'd like to see him used more and put in a position to catch a lot of balls and move the sticks for this offense.
There was a guy that played in the Indianapolis Colts, and his name was Bob Sanders, and he played with a physical style. He played such a physical style. He was always injured, and he missed time. And sometimes, Xander, when you have that mentality like that and you play with that reckless abandon, it's what it is and who you are, and it's part of how teams see you and evaluate you.
100%.
I mean, Bob Sanders was a hell of a player and a hell of a hitter. Tony Dungy loved him, but he did the same thing and said the same thing to him that you're saying about Goedert. Hey, I'm not going to change the player. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get 16 games out of him. Back then it was 16. You're not going to get 16 games, it seems. You're not going to get that out of Dallas Goedert because of the style of play he gets. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So we need more depth there.
That's a good one too. Jeremy Shockey. I loved Jeremy Shockey. I know he's a Giants fan, but my dad grew up where my dad grew up. My dad grew up in the middle of Pennsylvania in the projects, and he had one TV station and one station on his little dial-up radio, and it was the New York Yankees and the New York Football Giants. And my dad was obviously a New York fan growing up because of that. He's a little kid, and when he moved over to here and he got out of there, obviously I was raised around here, so I'm not a Giants fan at all, but my dad is. So, when I was a kid, I remember he loved, Eli Manning and Jeremy Shockey. So he was the Giants guy that I liked kind of. But anyway, it's a good point. It's very similar to Goedert in that way. And, I don't want to change the guy, but I want to utilize him more. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. It is what it is.
I'll tell you a little Shockey story. He's the University of Miami guys, And so he, Kellen Winslow Jr., which had issues, and he's in jail now, obviously, but he was a really good football player. And I remember, the old man who's a Hall of Fame player, and Kellen Winslow Jr. asked me, he goes, "Man, I'll never play here, man. They got Jeremy Shockey here. They got the guy who played basketball, the guy with New Orleans up in Seattle. The guy was a tight end forever. They had him." He goes, "I'll never play here." It's like tight end you. And I go, "Dude, you'll play. Shockey's going to leave." I think Shockey first went to the Giants, then he went to New Orleans. I think that's how that worked out because he ended up getting a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I forget where he ended. I know I did. Yeah, you're right. He did leave the Giants. I forget where he ended up though.
Yeah, I like that idea about putting Johnny Wilson maybe in that position.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, it's one of those things when he got drafted there, and then they asked in the press conferences about that, or will you move him to tight end? And they're like, "No, we scouted him as a wide receiver." But you know how the cookie crumbles. When the roster comes out and they need a guy at tight end and Johnny Wilson can fit the role, they're going to put him there. I actually think it would be a great fit because, he's got that big size and we need a tight end that can catch the ball. Another one at tight end too. And I think he would fit that bill. I just don't know if Hurts would find him, everybody's like, we need a tight end too. And I'm like, well, yeah, I agree. But what is he going to be? The seventh option, the sixth option? How much difference do they make in the game? They don't make much difference, but it's good to have them. We'll see what they end up doing. I like Johnny Wilson. I think he's actually going to be a decent player.
You made a comment about Kellen Moore's resume the other day to me. And I was always like, yeah, I got to tell you, he was a quarterback coach in 18 in Dallas. And from 19 to 22, 2019, they had 431 yards a game. They were first. In 2020, Dak gets hurt in New York, and they still end up 14th. Respectable, middle of the pack. They lose their top light quarterback. They're 371-8. They come back the following year in 2021. He's 407. He's first in the league again. And his last year in Dallas, 2022, they walked back outside the top 10 a little bit. I think that had a lot to do with losing Amari Cooper. And
the talent fluctuated like crazy over there.
And Zeke wasn't the player.
Yep.
So that came down, and they floated outside the top 10, so they went down to 354-8. I think that final year had more to do with Jerry not putting proper talent in the huddle. So if you're looking at the 4 years that he was in Dallas, two of those years, he had the number one offense in National Football League.
Yeah, I mean,
not horrible.
No, that's not. I think that's pretty damn good if you ask me. Now, ultimately didn't amount to what Dallas wanted to because they choke every year, no matter how good they are. But that's not on Kellen Moore. I mean, that's not all on Kellen Moore, obviously.
No, it's player accountability.
Yeah, players, coaches, organization. That's a lot bigger than Kellen Moore, the struggles in Dallas of the last 30 years. But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's why I'm optimistic, Sills. I really am. And it's not even just like an Eagle fan optimistic. I really think if Kellen approaches this with the right mindset, and when he spoke at his press conference, I thought he said good things. I want to accentuate the talents of my quarterback. I thought he said good things. If he does that and he just comes in here with an open mind and he doesn't try and fit a square peg into a round hole, I mean, how can this offense not take off, Sills? They got two of the best receivers in the NFL. They got a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. I mean, they got a top 5 tight end. They don't even need Jalen Hurts to be elite. They really don't. Just play top 10 ball. Just play top 10 ball as a quarterback, and your offense will probably be top 5. And if Kellen Moore accentuates his talents, they're going to be a hard team to beat. They really are. Now, that defense, that's another story, but I'm optimistic on the offense, man. I really think that Kellen Moore is going to do a good job with this team. I think he's going to look at what Shane Steichen did. He's going to learn from that offense in 22, and he's going to make a better version of that. And that's what I'm most excited to see. Now, if he doesn't do that, it's almost like a shame on him situation, because how do you get Jalen Hurts and not use him for what he's good for? But we'll see. I mean, I'm just optimistic on it. I think he's a good young, innovative offensive mind, and he hasn't reached his potential yet. This isn't like a guy that's, however many years old, who's stuck in his ways like a Vic Fangio, This is a guy that's willing to learn, open up the playbook more, and I'm excited to see what he'll do.
I would sit Jenny Wilson down and make him watch Calvin Johnson film, especially now that they can't tackle you. It's a great point.
That's a lofty thing there, though, my friend. Hey, look, I'm excited about Johnny Wilson, too, but holy moly, I don't think he's ever – I see what you're saying, learn from Calvin.
Oh, I think these offensive wide receiver numbers are going to go up because of the hip drop tackle being taken out. I do. Yeah, I think it's going to – I think you're going to see more missed tackles this year than we've ever seen in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to
be
a weird –
like Johnny Wilson could be – dude, wide receivers today, that is a position when you're in college right now, and you're actually in high school. When you're in high school right now, Xander, that's a position that you want to covet to be. You don't want to be a running back anymore. You want to be somebody like that, because check this out. Yep. Check it out. I get the ball 4 times a game, and I'm making $30 million. Sign me up. And I don't get hit. I mean, that's the best position on the field.
Yeah, it's true.
Quarterback gets hit. Let me ask you something here. You said something, though, to Paul this morning. How many carries do you actually think Saquon's going to get in this offense? You think they're going to use him like Zeke early in Dallas, or 270 carries? You haven't had a guy.
Maybe. I mean, I think they're a little bit of a different skill set, but they are similar. They're similar enough, I think, for that to be a good comparison. It does bring up the point. You brought up the point about the offenses with Kellen Moore. Maybe that's the reason they brought in Saquon Barkley, and they've changed their philosophy at the running back position. Maybe we're over.
Oh, so you think maybe the reason they signed him in free agency was because, hey, he fits with Kellen?
Well, maybe. I'm just saying. I think we've all jumped to comparing Saquon to Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco, and I don't think that that's the right comparison. I don't think we have the quarterback for that. I don't think we have the offense for that. I don't think we have the players for that. I just don't think it's the same thing. But comparing him to prime Zeke in Dallas, maybe. But I also said this morning, I'm not sure if you caught it, but I don't really care about the numbers with Saquon. I really don't, because when you have this many guys on offense, it's tough to go off numbers as being a success. A.J. Brown's going to make a bulk of the numbers. Devontae Smith is going to get a lot. Jalen Hurts is going to take him at the carries that he wants to take. I care about the situational impact of Saquon Barkley. If you're up by 2 touchdowns or a touchdown late in the game, does he get you the first down, on 3rd and 3? Can he do those types of things that help you close out games? And even on the flip side, in the beginning of games, can he help you get in your offense? Can he help you avoid the early 3 and outs that put pressure on the defense? Can he help you do those things and get into the flow of game or at the end of the game, close out a game? The situational impact to me is more important than having 1,700 yards. Like, I don't really care, If you do your job, and we'll know, by the way, we'll know whether the situational impact is there. If he does that, I think it'll be a successful signing.
Let me do something here with you. I'm going to go around the NFC East a little bit here in a second, but what positions, this was my second topic that I haven't even gotten to yet, but I'm going to do it with you. What positions can't the Eagles afford an injury? Let me start with these. I picked these: D-line, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, and edge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go like this with D-line. And I'm just going to do the interior guys because obviously I split them up. I did edge and I did D-line. You can't really afford any injuries in that. If Jaylen Carter or Jordan Davis goes down, then you're scrap heaping it again. Do you go get a guy like Tua? Not Tua? What's his name? Adama Sue? Something like that. Are you looking there? Are you going to have to go into the free agency area to try to sign a guy like that? They're very thin at defensive interior tackle.
Yeah, they really are. I would like them to make that move proactively instead of a reaction. Remember, we still had good rotation in 22 when we signed the Ndamukong Suh, and not great, but
Oh, I thought
and
it was
and I
really
think if
good.
you do that and you're able to bring in guys like that, you can lower the amount of, hits each of those guys takes, and maybe they avoid injury altogether because you're able to, lessen their snap count on lesser important downs and get them to play longer. But you get 2 young guys, and really the entire defense is hinging on them, not just the defensive line. The entire defense is hinging on the play of Jaylen Carter, on the play of Jordan Davis, Milton Williams as well. If one of those goes down, and by the way, these are guys that have had a little bit of conditioning issues in the past, so it's a little scary. But if one of those goes down, you're right, man, we're in big trouble. Howie's going to be looking for somebody on the scrap heap for sure.
Would you call Fletcher?
I would
try to coax him out.
I would. I don't think he's your guy, though.
You think
I
he's
think
finished?
Fletcher strikes me as a kind of guy.
Jason Kelsey's done. Have you seen the weight he's lost? He's done. He's done.
Fletcher strikes me as a guy that's going to be done too. Man, he's out in his land. He is hunting. He is enjoying his $100+ million on his whatever estate he's got, and I just don't think he's coming back. I would love it. I love Fletcher Cox, but we'll see. I doubt it, but yeah, I'd make the call. Why not? Right?
Hey, I'd call Aaron Donald too, JM. That's a great one.
$5 million for 8 games.
Hey, would you give Aaron Donald $3 million for the playoffs?
Yeah, I would.
Hey, I got $27.7 million. Hey, Aaron Donald, man, we're a little light in defensive tackle. Do you think you could come in and play 3 games for us? Here's $3 million. We'll prorate it out for you.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm in.
See, Jack says Fletch didn't really love football. It's kind of the point I'm making. I don't want to go as far as to say he didn't love it. I just think Fletcher isn't.
You don't play 12 years and not love it.
Yeah, well, he did love it, but the truth is he wasn't overly consumed by it. Like it wasn't everything he did. Fletcher was a guy, he did decompress. He did have hobbies and things away from the game. And I think he likes those things, and I'm perfectly fine with that. He was a high-level player. I don't think it ever took away from how good he was for our team, but you're right to the point, Jack. I don't think he's going to come out of retirement. I don't, unless maybe he thinks we're going to go and win a Super Bowl. Maybe.
I think you're very thin at wide receiver.
We're beyond thin. Beyond thin. If A.J. Brown goes down, what are you doing? John Ross? Johnny Wilson? Paris Campbell?
Smith?
Anias. Oof.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I mean, if one of those goes down, you might as well
I mean,
wrap it up because
Devontae Smith goes down, you become more predictable, especially with a quarterback that had struggles reading defenses. So you can't really lose that guy. You can't lose it. Hey, do you think also with Goedert's not being in the lineup, you think that hurts also other teams being easier when it comes to game planning the Eagle offense because they become more predictable because it's one less guy that they know Jalen Hurts is not going to go to because he's not going to go to receiver 3. He's not going to go to the tight end because no tight ends were non-factor after Goedert got hurt. It just went to the numbers.
It's 100% the case. I mean, it's part of what happened, I think, down the stretch last year. I mean, the offense became so predictable that, it wasn't hard to guard. And even if A.J. Brown did get his touches, you were fine with it because you were like, I know that that's all they got, and they're not, eventually it's going to die out. So, look, I think this is where Kellen's going to help Jalen too. And it's part of what we talked about one of our first segments together where I'm like, in a way, it's sink or swim for Jalen because I don't think Jalen's going anywhere. But I'm saying Kellen's offense is going to force him to find the rest of the field. It's going to force him to use the middle of the field. It's going to force him to throw the ball to the tight end. It's going to force him to use some of those other pieces. And I think it's a good thing. I really do think it's a good thing for the Eagles offense as a whole, for sure.
What's your take on the depth at edge?
Not good, man. I mean, well, if Nolan Smith plays like a first-round draft pick, I think it's all right. Right? I mean, if he does,
you can't afford an injury there.
No, you can't. I mean, you can't afford an injury anywhere. I mean, really. I mean,
well, that O-line, I think you can.
So you think we're going to be the same team if Jordan Mailata goes down?
No, but I think you can put Mekhi Becton out there at left tackle.
Right, and get a serviceable version.
You're not gonna fall off a cliff over there with him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, if somebody goes down at the edge room, it's all on Nolan Smith because, like, let's just say Hoff or Sweat goes down. If Nolan Smith is playing like a first-round pick, at least you still have two guys there going, where you're in a position to be able to rush the passer. Now you're going to add a guy. BG is not going to be enough rotation, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the whole defensive line is technically weak on the depth, and Johnny Mack has been talking about this all off season. It's a good roster, but it's top heavy. I'd rather be top heavy than a bunch of mediocres all over the roster, but you're right. If we have injuries this year, it's going to be tough because you're going to be playing from the scrap heap. You're going to be picking up the scrap heap, and we'll see what we're able to do. But, you can't legislate it, right, Dan? I mean, what are we going to do?
No. And plus, you're not going to be deep, but I'm just saying, John McMullen made a great point today with you. I mean, I hate your linebacking core. However, you're kind of deep there with everybody that you have. I mean, they're all pretty much the same guy. They're all the same guy named Bob. That's kind of what I see when I see these dudes in the middle in there. So you got a bunch of guys that are okay. They're not 5-star guys. They're 3-star guys. And you're like this. Well, if this guy like, what's his name? Braun goes down. Okay. Got the other kid that you could slide in, the guy you got from San Francisco. So I mean, I actually think you're not that far off when it comes to depth at linebacker, and I don't like the group, but you could sustain an injury there. I think you can sustain an injury in your secondary too.
Secondary, yeah. I mean, I think it's possible to assume one of them might be coming with, the age of Slay. I mean, he's 30. He's like 34, dude. That's like he's like grandpa time in the NFL now, especially at that position. So. Yeah, I think you're right. There are definitely some positions where it will hurt us more. I mean, JM brings up a good point. Center, dude. If we leave,
I never thought of that one there.
I mean, if you lose,
but couldn't you slide Landon over? Couldn't you slide Landon?
I wonder if that's the way they would go. I mean, they have that Matt Hennessy on as a backup. They signed that Matt Sharping to be a guard backup. So I don't know if they would move Landon. I mean, dude, he hasn't played center since college. I don't know if they're going to go that route, but you're right. They could. And
then put Becton at left guard.
Yeah. That's
Hey, would you ever contemplate doing this? Moving Landon Dickerson over to right guard and putting Becton over at left guard? And you put it that way and you roll that in there because
Becton likes the left side.
Yeah. And he's more comfortable over there.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it, but I see the reasoning. I mean, if
Look
you
at
can
the
move
size
dude,
of
if you
the
move
line.
Landon to right and then you put Mekhi at left and then you lock up Mekhi Becton for the long term.
Hey, Jalen Hurts would need a footstool to look over
I
that
know.
offensive
I know.
line.
That's a real worry. I mean, Jalen Hurts is like what, 6'1", maybe 6'2"? Like
One and
he's
a
not
half, something like
yeah,
that.
he's
Right?
like not that tall. So that's a he would almost have to take a 5-step drop to be able to see
Yeah.
over those guys at least. So, that's definitely a thing, but I think we'll be all right at offensive line.
I'm going to go into the couple teams, obviously, in the NFC East here. What's your takeaway of the Giants here? I want to read this here to you. The general manager, I think, has been a train wreck. I think their defense, like you said the other day, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, they got Burns. I like the kid Malik Neighbors, the kid they signed from LSU, but no Barkley. Daniel Jones. I mean, I think Brian Dable's a good play caller. Give me your takeaway on the Giants, though. I think they're a 5-win team. Are you higher or lower on them?
I'm right about where you are on them. I think the Neighbors kid's really good, but he's a receiver, man. Like he's nothing without the guys, throwing him the ball, that offensive line, giving Daniel Jones time. So I think they're a 5-win team. I think you hit the nail on the head. They're right there. I don't know. I don't see them being a contender this year, really at all. Joe Schoen's been an absolute travesty there. I mean, basically nothing he has done really has worked out well.
Right.
Has been right. I mean, it's just bad. I mean, Brian Dable, I thought was going to be a great coach. He's turned out to really, I don't really know now. I mean, look, I liked him after rookie year. Obviously, he got the coach
2
of the year.
years ago, he's the coach of the year.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, let's see on this guy. So Giants are a nothing burger. I tell you what, your NFC East segment in the open here, it made me wonder, brother. I mean, Eagles don't even have to be that great, and they could walk their way into the playoffs this year.
I think for just this team, though, and let me get into Washington here with you now.
Yeah,
I think Adam Peters has done a really nice job, the brand new general manager. Depending on how much influence. So let me ask you something, Xander. You can help me here. How much of an impact does Josh Harris have, and how much does he have on a day-to-day basis when it came to running the 76ers, in your opinion? After the years watching what they've done, how involved is he in running that organization in Philadelphia? I mean, do you get a sense he's a day-to-day guy?
No, I don't at all. You know what I get a sense from him? From a businessman, I respect it because to me, it just looks like he wants to build a sports conglomerate. He wants to own teams all over the map. He wants to be a massive, and he wants to raise money, make money for all of his investors, and he doesn't really give a shit about what's going on in the day-to-day operations. I don't think of any of his teams. That's why Daryl Morey runs free reign right now in Philly. And I don't think Daryl Morey is very good at his job, by the way. I mean, talk about an overhyped dude that's really never done nothing. Holy crap, Daryl Morey. He sucks.
What did he do in Houston? What did he do in Houston?
What is he known for? He's known for trading for Harden everywhere. Like, dude, I don't care. Like, win a title. Like, Daryl Morey, whatever. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole.
No, he's completely overrated.
He's terrible. Anyway, I don't think Josh Harris is involved. I don't think he's going to be involved in Washington. I think he'll be like, show his face like he did at the draft and some of that crap. But I don't think he's going to be involved. I do think their GM is pretty good, though. I don't like Dan Quinn, though. I mean, I don't think he's a good head coach. I don't think he's going to be a good head coach. So, but I do like the quarterback they picked up. Yeah. So we'll see we'll see what they're able to do. You brought up a good point. Their receivers are amazing. I think Terry McLaurin's one of the more underrated guys in the NFL. He's a good player.
And that kid Johan Dotson on the other side of him. I think Washington has better wide receiving guys as a duo than Dallas does. Brandon Cooks or CeeDee Lamb. Or would you take Terry McLaurin and Johan Dotson? I would take the guys in Washington.
Yeah, I think I would too. I mean, I think CD is the best one of the group, but collectively, I think Washington is the better duo. I think they're a 7-8 win team maybe this year. I think they take a step forward. I think they show signs, but they're not ready to take that type of leap yet. So that's how I view them.
How about this stat here? Well, here, I mean, I think they improved also on defense a little bit here. Were you shocked when I told you that Austin Eckler in the last 5 years is a running back that had 30 touchdowns rushing, 30 touchdowns receiving. He's the only back, and that includes McCaffrey, where he's put those numbers up in the last 5 years. This guy's out in Los Angeles and out in San Diego the first year there. And I know Austin, and he was an all-pro first-team guy in 2022. I don't even remember him signing in Washington. Man, I would have loved to have that kind of skill set in the Eagle huddle. But hey, here's what. Watch this, Xander, and here's the problem people have. Barkley is a better talent. Eckler is more productive.
Yeah, but JM brings up a good point. He got that injury, and he's never been the same. And he's a dual threat running back, dude. Like, Jalen doesn't throw to those guys. So why are you going to go and sign a guy that's really makes butters a lot of his bread in the passing game? Jalen's not going to do that. I don't care for an undersized pass catching running back. I don't. I've been consistent about that all summer. I don't care for that guy now. Maybe he'll be good there, but yeah, I don't know. You didn't win me over on that one.
And by the way, you got to remember something. Last year there was a contract dispute last year between Eckler and also the Chargers last year. So the same thing with Barkley.
He was crying. He was crying up a storm like he was one of the best running backs in the NFL. I'm like, listen, guys.
It was coming off an all-pro season.
All right, dude. I mean, there's
not high on him as a player, huh?
No, I'm not. I'm not at all.
Even with 60 touchdowns combined in the last 5 years,
I like him. I think he's a guy. I think he's replaceable. I mean, I think he's he's more replaceable than I can name you 5 backs off the top of my head I would take before him.
Now you put him in that huddle though with Terry McLaurin and Johan Dotson.
Yeah, right. I think it's a good fit. I'm just saying about the perspective of bringing him into bringing him into the Eagles. I don't care. Forrest, I didn't call anybody a dual threat quarterback. I called him him a dual threat running back in the sense that he can catch the ball. Yeah,
that's what he does, and that's who he is. They also get Bobby Wagner and they get Frankie Laveau in linebacker, and they got the best linebacking core in the NFC East, in my opinion. Now they lost that kid, that sweat kid that went up to Chicago, and they lost Chase Young, who went down to New Orleans. So they're going to have to figure out how to get to the quarterback. But Xander, I'm a little higher on this team, man. I think this team could be between a 7-9 win team, somewhere in there, depending. It's all going to come down to Kingsbury and his relationship with Jaden Daniels.
So you think Jaden Daniels is going to have a big year? You think
Jaden Daniels is going to have a big year?
You do?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be good. I just don't know if he's ready to take that type of a jump yet. I mean, you're almost going – you think he has more of a CJ Stroud first year than you do, like a regular first year quarterback?
Like a Bryce Young? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bryce Young. I mean, shit. I'm not.
Yeah, well, Bryce Young, I think Bryce Young is in my opinion, I think Bryce Young is not being coached right. They're not putting good player. Why would you get rid of Christian McCaffrey when you drafted Bryce Young, knowing full well that that's a guy you need in the backfield to help that kid become a better ball player? That doesn't make sense to me. And get this, you didn't even get a first rounder for him.
I know.
You got a bunch of multiple picks, 2s and 3s. You didn't even get a 1 for the guy.
I know.
And what do? You put another stiff in the backfield. Oh, no, what'd you do? You went out and got Miles Sanders, who played, 5 games last year for you?
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I'm an Alabama guy, but I don't know about Bryce Young in the NFL, man. And the organization where he is not helping him at all. So I don't know much. I don't think he's going to end up doing much in the NFL. We'll see. He just doesn't. He looks small to me, man, out there, and I don't know if he's gonna get it together, especially in Carolina. So, but look, if Jaden Daniels has a CJ Stroud type of year, that would be pretty impressive. Got to tip your cap if that happens.
2 last questions here for you.
Yep.
And I heard you talking about him. You guys were saying the same thing about Jaylen Carter. So you're not completely sold on him, huh?
On who?
Jaylen Carter.
No. See, I thought that guy. I thought Johnny Mac blew my comment out of proportion. I'm sold on him. I'm more sold on him than probably any player that's been good for 10 games in the history of the freaking NFL. But the reality is the reality. It's not like a foregone conclusion, right? I mean, We got to see the guy play a full season. We got to see him do it again. I mean, I'm not going to judge his entire productivity in an NFL season based on 11 good games, and I look, I'm extremely high on the player. I think he's going to be better than Fletcher Cox was in Philly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that tells you
Hall
what
of
I think.
Fame.
That's Hall of Fame. That's nearly Hall of Fame. That's Eagles Hall of Fame for sure. That's potential NFL Hall of Famer. I think he's that good. But that doesn't mean I'm ready to say, he's going to be that right away. Like, I got to keep saying it. You got to see it. You want to earn it, and I'm not ready to give him the benefit of the doubt just yet. That's all. That's not that I'm not sold on the player.
Let me give you where you are when it comes to him, and you're right. When I first saw Jadeveon Clowney his first year, I went like this: wow, this player's going to be good. But you know what he never did? He never wowed me after that.
Yeah.
Like, it was never, he's never had double-digit sacks in his entire NFL career. He's never had double-digit sacks. He was the first overall pick, and he never had double-digit sacks. I saw him his first year, and I went, hey, this kid's going to be a good ball player. So I think you're right. Look, he have all the fundamental skills to become one of the top interior defensive tackles that the Eagles have ever had. Absolutely. But we saw him get to the college 12, 13, 14 game level. It went the other way a little bit. Now we want to see him become a pro because, hey, Xander, from 12 to 17, that's when you know you're a pro football player.
Yeah, exactly. Jadeveon Clowney, is he the one? He is the guy that concussed Wentz, right? In the playoff game. Yeah. I was at that.
Remember him in his big hit was in the Outback Bowl when he knocked that guy from Michigan out, who was their starting quarterback, and that was he was like the billboard that never really the movie lived up to.
Yeah, and that's why you got to be. That's why, and that's a perfect example of why you have to, you got to see it again from Jaylen Carter. I don't think it's a knock on the player. It's just, it's the NFL. You got to continue to do it. You got to continue to show it. The one thing that annoys me a little bit, full disclosure on it, and I'm not ready to be annoyed about it with Jaylen Carter, but I am ready to be annoyed about it with guys like Jordan Davis, with guys like Nakobe Dean, with guys like, that have been in the league now for more than a year. Like, this entire life, this entire job, is about being in shape. You're playing a sport, a physical sport. The number one thing you're supposed to do as a player is be in shape. Now, I think it's different for Jaylen because game shape is a little different. Acclimating to the NFL, that's normal to me. That makes sense to me. But Jordan Davis, like, you're getting gas in the second half of seasons. Son, come on, man. Like, you're paid millions of dollars to be in shape. You're paid money to go to the gym. Go to the gym. Be in shape. It's not that hard. Like you say, I'm not going to, you want me to thank you for not robbing a bank? You want me to praise you for being in shape? No. That's the bare bones minimum of an elite athlete in this world. And I think that, that irks me a little bit. Like I said, I'm not ready to be mad at Carter about it because he was a year one player. But if he can't go for a full year this year, I mean, come on, man, you got to get in that gym. So yeah, Flexion says, leave the tasty cakes alone, man. So that irks me a little bit about these guys.
How about Disciple here? What if Brian Johnson has a great year at the quarterback coach along with Cliff Kingsbury, and that guy has a CJ Stroud year?
Oh my God.
Yeah. What if that guy goes up there and Jalen stays pretty stagnant and has the same kind of year he had a year ago, and it doesn't look like a gigantic upgrade?
Dude, if Brian Johnson gets Jaden Daniels playing like that, oh my gosh, that will look terrible on the Eagles. That will not look good, dude.
If that guy goes up there, throws for more yards than Hurts this year in his rookie year, and and get this, and they're fighting out for the NFC East.
You think he's got more upside than Hurts?
He's better in the pocket than him.
That pause told me all I needed to know.
Well, because, again, you got to be careful with that because Hurts, one thing he is really good at, he sees the game.
Really?
Well, I didn't say he sees receivers.
Okay.
He sees the game, dude. I mean, he's won a ton of ball games.
No, I know he does. I'm just saying there are moments when you watch tape and you watch the all 22s and you see guys streaking up the side and it's like, Jaylen, I wish you would just look to the other side of the field. So that's what I was referring to. But
I'm talking, it's more.
Yeah, you're not talking about that. You're talking about as a whole, a little bit more zoomed out and understanding of the game. No, I see what you're saying.
The Buffalo overtime is what I'm kind of talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
Like that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. He's also 5 years in the NFL now.
Yeah, I know. It's finally here. Okay. What are your expectations with Nolan Smith this year? What do you want to see from him?
I think you got to get on the board, man. You got to be somebody that a defense has to block. You got to be somebody that when you're out there, you're a threat to get to the quarterback. Now, maybe in this type of role, it's a 6 to 8 sack role. Maybe it's not a bona fide starter because he does have Sweat and Huff in front of him, but your first round pick, man, it's time, and that's a valuable position. So I'm not going to sit here and wait all day for you to do it. My problem with Nolan is, and I'm you guys can rip me if you want in the chat. That's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. He doesn't look it to me. Like when you look at an edge rusher, you can kind of tell. You know what I mean? Look at Myles Garrett. Look at Micah Parsons. Look at, TJ Watt. Look at Nick Bosa. Look at even Joey Bosa.
There's a presence.
Look at Hassan Reddick. Look at Josh Sweat. When I look at Nolan, I'm like, you're small. I don't see you being a threat against 330-pound offensive linemen who are trying to take you out. I don't see you getting past that. And that's my biggest problem with him right now. Now, it's just my eye test. It's just an opinion. It doesn't mean it's not an indictment on the player before you all start freaking out. It's just my opinion. It's just what I see. And I look at him and I say, I'm a little concerned that he's going to be a great edge rusher in the NFL. That's all. I don't see it yet. I hope he can turn the corner. I hope he can be a great player. But this is another thing the Eagles love. What's up with them and these undersized edges, man?
Dude.
I don't like it.
No.
Go get me a game wrecker.
Yeah. Yeah, I want what you had a game wrecker. I saw a guy destroy the NFC title game. I watched a guy destroy the NFC title game, right? All pro Nolan.
Oh, man. Niners all damn day. He's trolling at his ass, and he knows it.
Hey, well, who do you have as? Oh, that's right. You have Nick Bosa there. What an absolutely awesome debate. Better than anything I saw last.
Oh my God! You want to go? You want me to go into that? Don't even.
Hey,
you think people think they're mad at me now? Wait till they hear my take on the presidential debate.
What'd you make of that thing last night?
It's a travesty that guy is running our country. It really to sit back and to understand that we live in a country of 350 million people almost, and you turn on your television set, and that guy is the pinnacle of the free world. The pinnacle. He is the number one job basically on planet Earth as the president of this country. And you watch him and you're just, last night was to me
like watching Nick Sirianni on an Eagles sideline.
I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I'll be fully honest about that, but I almost felt bad for the guy. When you're somebody's not up to speed and somebody's picking on him and you're like, yo, man, pick on somebody your own size. That's how I felt though. I was like, this guy shouldn't be up there, man.
I think Trump laid off him.
I think Trump looked at him and almost said,
yeah,
I could shut up because
you know what? I think he did. I think Trump went like this. I really don't have to say much.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to go too politics on everybody.
No, I know
you don't give a shit. You barely care about my football takes.
Yeah.
I know you don't give a shit about my
70
politics.
million people did watch that thing last
night.
Yeah,
man. It's a thing. And we're in June here. That's a big thing that's happening in our country. And I think it's worth talking about at least a little bit, even if not every one of you like my opinion. I'm all right with that. But, I just think that guy, like I said, this is a big country with a lot of great people, a lot of smart people. And I watch that and I'm just like, good Lord,
I don't get
man.
it, dude. We have so many smart folks in this world, like Elon and them guys. And we can't get really good candidates to run for president of the United States. You know what? Funny, isn't that crazy? All the major executives don't want the gig because it don't pay enough.
Yeah, that's true. You know,
Hey, man.
I mean, Trump's net worth has gone down since he's been, I mean, he's one of the only politicians where the net worth has actually gone down since he took public office because he stopped running, big businesses. So, yeah, what a shit show last night was. But,
I tuned that thing on. I'm watching and I'm going, how many times did you do this? Ooh.
I know what I'm doing in November.
Oh, my God almighty. Xander, great stuff, my friend. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Sil. See you, everybody. Thanks for listening to me and hearing my opinions. I know half of you don't care, but I'm still going to give them to you anyway. I appreciate all you guys. Love you all. Hit the like. Thank you, Sils.
Absolutely. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. Be prepared for your season ticket prices to go up, fans. Oh. Wow. I would say that the NFL ticket prices to games are probably going to go up anywhere between 25 to 30%. Why do you think that is? I mean, if you have a $100 ticket right now, you're probably going to have to pay an additional $50. $100 ticket is going to go to $150. $300 tickets, obviously. You're talking an additional $450, go from $300 to $450. There you go, senor. Because the owners got to pay customers $14 billion. They lost that settlement. with the Sunday ticket, and the ruling came out against him. You know, they keep reporting that it's $4.6 billion times 3. And it could be more per team. They were taking advantage of you. They were completely monopolizing the Sunday ticket. They were charging extraordinary charges so you wouldn't buy it. And Sunday ticket won the case. When the NFL wins, you lose. You don't think the owners are going to pay that? They're going to make you pay that. Got to pay the customers. That's right. Senor's been on top of that. No more people in commercial. Yeah, but Senor, you know this. They're going to turn around. Ticket prices are going to go up. Oh, and by the way, these new television deals, they're going to add that factor in the loss of money. The NFL owners don't lose. Have you ever seen an NFL owner or NFL owners lose a lockout with players? They're not, when they cut contracts, okay, with television networks, they write a number down on a piece of paper and they tell you what you're going to pay. There's no negotiating. Or they'll go somewhere else. That's why the NFL went like this. Streaming? No. CBS, you can't add that in. That's a big deal because they're going to inflict that on you. Like get this. When you pay Jalen Hurts' contract, the owner's not paying that. That comes out of the television rights. And he keeps the rest. He gets $500,000 a year from the TV networks. Jeffrey Lurie. Others sue. The other owners sue too. And he pays $230 million of it for salary cap for the payroll. He doesn't pay any of that stuff out of his pocket. Nothing comes out of his pocket when he pays Hurts. Comes out of the TV deal. That's why you see certain owners not spending a lot of money. Hey, whether you're 17-0 or 0-17, doesn't really matter because they have profit sharing in that league. It's the greatest racket on the planet. We're not worried about it because people use Fire Sticks for streaming out games. Okay. Once again, I'm talking about fans who want to go to football games. Going to a football game's a joke now. Why in the world would you ever in a million years want to pay that kind of money to go to a football game? $500 to go to a game? No, thank you. You know, those SoFi tickets for you to go to a Rams game are now $450. By the way, Jason Cole's going to join us at the bottom of the hour here, our NFL Hall of Fame voter. Right? I saw that yesterday that they were going to have to pay $14.6 billion. If I'm paying, I'll go to a college game. Hey, but Sills, I love $20 beer. Hey, me too. Hey, no, Jack. Hey, Jack. I don't have to pay $20 beers to go to a football game. I can have the beers in my home, sit in front of my television set, sit on my couch and watch football. And I would never go to an NFL game. And if I don't like the game, I could flick around. Absolutely. Best seat. And they want you at home because they want television ratings. They don't want you at games. But they know the passionate places like Buffalo and Philly, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. They know you're going to go. But they don't care. It's more important that you watch the games than go to games. DFW says an 18-game schedule is automatic now. Absolutely. Expanded rosters. Shit, man, you get this. There's going to be as many as 70 people now on a football roster. When I played, only 47 made the team. And 43 were active. You have 70 guys now on a football team. 70, counting the practice squad. 70 guys. And when I played, there was only 28 teams. 70 guys make a football team. Think about this too, Ben. If you have to pay $400 a season, people will stop. How about this, Ben? No way. If you go to a football game in Philly, say you got to pay $300 ticket for a family of 4, that's $1,800. Parking's another $100. It's $2,000. Got to buy little pom-poms for Susie and Billy. Another $25. Got to buy beers. There's $20 a pop. 3 of them, another $80. Okay? Got to buy a program for little Johnny and Susie and yourself and your old lady. It is another $100. You got to buy food. You're talking about $2,500 weekend to go to an NFL football game for a family of 4. Really? $2,500 10 times? You're going to spend $25,000 go to an Eagle game every weekend? That's quite a lot of money. Okay? Actually, he's right. 300 is 1,200. It's 1,200 for the tickets, not 18. Okay? There's $1,200. Parking's 100. There's 13. Food, another 150. That's $1,450. Pom-poms and all the other stuff with merchandising, another 125. $1,600 to go to a game on weekends. How you doing? $1,600, my friend, to go watch you play some shitty football team. You pay $1,000 just to be close enough to see anyone good. Hey, God forbid it's a blowout. All right. So that was an interesting decision that came down. We'll talk to Jason about that too here in a minute. Hey, Sills, are you able to tell us that Jeff Stoutland does differently? That's a great one. Hey, Sills, are you able to tell us what Jeff Stoutland does differently that others that makes him the best? FYI, I'm further back in the show if this is off topic. That's okay, Devin. That's actually a great question. What does Jeff Stoutland do that other offensive line coaches don't do? Now, you got to remember, this is why Cliff Kingsbury and Jeff Stoutland aren't compatible. Why? It's not the zone blocking, and it's not man blocking. And it's not the kind of foundation on how he teaches his guys when it comes to a guy who is a believer in a drop back quarterback or an RPO guy. There's one thing that Philadelphia Eagle team struggled with a year ago. And let's be candid. There were more hits on the quarterback. There were more turnovers. The quarterback didn't see the blitz. How good are they in pass protection? Now, your running backs didn't help you because they were terrible. But what really makes the Philadelphia Eagle O-line great, they're exceptional run blockers. They're exceptional run blockers. That's what makes him great. And Cliff Kingsbury obviously didn't feel that Jeff Stoutland fit his style of offense. I think he believes more in zone blocking, the Alex Gibb type style, and that fits and more compatible with drop back quarterbacks and such like that. And you have to have really good pass protection with technique guys. And last year, when they went to throw the football more, the quarterback got hit more. I know, Senor, it didn't make sense. And that's why, get this. Think about what Senor's saying there. Look what he's doing here. Exceptional run blockers, but the Eagles stopped running the ball. There lies the dilemma. He's dead right. They're exceptional run blockers. Tush push, 22. When they started pass protecting in 23, more hits on the quarterback. The quarterback struggled reading blitzes. More blitzes on the player. They weren't very good last year in pass protection. Gave up more sacks. Okay? I mean, that's still how it played itself out. And so what Stoutland does and how he teaches his guys, there's no question that he teaches his guys all the fundamentals that they need to have when it comes to being a great run blocker. And it starts there. And to me, when I look at Jordan Mailata, I still think he struggles a little bit in pass protection, especially on second moves. He's great in run blocking. He was great as a rugby player. I think Lane Johnson, that's why he plays right tackle, is a really exceptional run blocker. Is he a great offensive pass protector? He's probably the best right tackle in the league when it comes to pass protection. But that's the lesser guy who takes on the lesser pass rusher from that side of the football. Now, they move guys more around. And anytime that you line up Michael Parsons over him, he crushes him. You see, to me, rushing Michael Parsons from the left side is a mistake. You rush him weak side. But to see what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a matchup on him when it comes to the lesser tackle. The lesser tackle's the right tackle. And so you want to get that matchup. But what the Cowboys did was they ran into the teeth of the lion. Lane's an exceptional athlete, and he's good at pass. He's one of the better pass protecting offensive tackles. I'll tell you something else, too. He teaches great balance. And he's really good at the offensive lineman never really ever getting out of position. He teaches second level guys. Like Jason Kelsey, he's a big effort dude. I think it's the style of player that he also looks at. Okay? Pass pro the past 3 years has been average. Ray, they're not the best pass protecting team. Here, let me show you something here, Ray. Jalen Hurts is a tough guy to pass protect for. Last year, he wasn't as hard. That's why teams knew where he was going to be. The year before, he was exceptional in 22. When you pass protect, and you're pass protecting for a drop back quarterback like, we'll just say Brady, you know where he is. When I'm sitting here and I'm putting my hands up, guys rushing me, I know Brady's behind me. I know where he is in the pocket. When you got these dual threat guys and they're moving around all the time, you can run yourself right into a sack. And I could be blocking the guy's ass off, and I could have the guy stoned at the line of scrimmage, but because this guy, how many sacks did you see last year, or how many times did you see Jalen run into pressure? Because he didn't feel the pocket presence that he had, that he did in 22 when he just took off running. It was more business decision stuff. It was almost like Jalen decided to take the sack more in the pocket to get out in the perimeter and get in the open, which makes him even more deadly. But that's harder to block for when you're an offensive lineman. Again, Peyton Manning and these guys, dude, they're easy to pass protect for. Why? I know where he is. I don't have to guess where he is. Okay? So when you got to block for a guy like Hurts or Lamar or people that move around in the pocket a lot, those are harder guys to deal with. You can run yourself into sacks and into blitzes. So, again, I just think that he teaches really great fundamentals. You can see it. Sam says this. He couldn't run at that point, though. Played injured under normal circumstances. Jalen Hurts was not injured last year. He was not injured. He may have been banged up, but Jalen Hurts was not injured. Never one time was on the IR. May have been banged up. Jameson says, did you see that Malik Hooker attacked Michael Parsons? I haven't seen that yet. I'd like to know if it. Hit the like button. Thank you, JM. Guys, please hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. I'd like to know what that is. Michael Parsons talking shit again. Not even on the weekly injury report. Senor, he was never, I don't think he would, and I may have missed it, but I don't think Jalen Hurts was ever on the injury report. I don't think he ever made it. Yeah, Malik Hook just did. I don't know what he did, so you guys have to tell me what he did. Yeah. And let me put this in here. Philly Godfather just said, "Are we good for today?" I said, "Absolutely, we are." Hurts dislocated his finger the week before the playoff game, and his knee was hurt most of the season. Okay, well, he wasn't on injured reserve. You're not on injured reserve. You're not hurt. So if the Eagles' offensive line is so good, run blocking, then why don't we run the ball more? It's a strength. James, that's a fundamental decision that the organization made last year to stop running the ball. That's my point. They stopped running the ball. That was a decision in game planning. If I have the best offensive line, like you guys, look, most of you have said the right thing here. Hey, we get the best O-line in football. Well, not really. You got the best run blocking O-line. Your pass blocking is probably top 10. Your run blocking's top 3. Puts you in the top 5. Right. Pass protection, the Lions are better. I'd say Cleveland's better, pass protection-wise. I would even say Minnesota's starting to get up there a little bit. And you guys went to a weaker strength last year in your pass protection. You're one of the top 10 pass protecting teams, which is good. But why wouldn't you keep with the top 2 or top 3 run offensive lines when you were running teams over in 22? You just completely abandoned that, especially in the second half of the season. Okay? Malik Hooker went live and said Michael Parsons needs to worry about his run D and not worry about his podcast. Micah then responded, Jameson, tell me what Micah said. Hooker's right. He's calling him soft. The stuff that Jalen Hurts or Xander talks to John McMullen about. Everyone in the NFL or anyone that watches football knows that Micah Parsons is a finesse player. He's not a run defender. He's a pass rusher. Okay. Don't come off like you're LT, though. You're not. LT was exceptional against the run and exceptional pass rushing. JM goes, the front office dictates the scheme. I think the analytics department, which is the front office, I think they do dictate that. Okay? I do think they are. How many times a game does Jalen roll out by design? I don't think there's very I don't think there's a lot of intel on that last year where I saw him rolling out. I'd like to move him around more. That's a really great one, Ray. I'd like to remember how Aaron Rodgers used to get on the perimeter and they would roll him, or Steve Young, they would roll him. Man, I like that stuff. So, you know what hey, let me say this to you. One thing that I enjoy a lot is our conversations with my friend Jason Cole, because you know what Jason's going to do here? Jason's going to give you the skinny when it comes to how the NFL does business. And the NFL just lost $4.6 billion times 3, 14 point, what was the number? 14 or 13.8. Guess who's paying that? You. So let's go to our friend, our NFL Hall of Fame voter, Jason Cole, for a couple minutes and get his take on this here. How you doing, Jace?
I'm great. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, Jace, what was your takeaway with that lawsuit that they lost against the Sunday Ticket, the National Football League, and how big of a deal do you think that's going to be over the next couple of years? Or is that just a nothing burger to you when it comes to the National Football League?
Well, when you're talking about treble damages in an antitrust case, you're talking about a major amount of money. I mean, yes, you're 13.8. Yeah, that's no small amount of cash. That's more than they lost in the concussion settlement. by a factor of 10, right? So this is a big deal, and I think they are guilty of price fixing. The question is, how will the upper courts handle it? Because they're going to appeal it, and they'll take it to the Supreme Court. And this is a case where, once you get it to a conservative court, is a conservative court going to allow them some kind of latitude because we have so many conservative judges, or are they going to continue to stick it to them? This is a consumer issue, and it's a fairly major consumer issue. Now, I think the judgment sounds to me like a bit of an overreach. This sound more like, a case that was worth $1.5 billion, but, judges tend to go a little bit overboard at the lower levels because it scares other companies from trying to do the same thing. Whether they ultimately uphold the judgment or not, you're trying to send a message out to other companies. And when the NFL loses on something like this, it has a very major effect and sort of a calming effect on others to say, yeah, you better not do that. If you're attempting to do anything close, don't, because we're really going to stick it to you.
Don't you think this may have, because they use COVID as a way to drop the salary cap, and most of the salary cap is predicated on what the television packages are. That's how the owners pay a lot of the salaries that comes out of that money that the teams and the owners get every year from the TV. Do you think that will have an impact where the owners go, well, wait a minute here. This is TV. We pay the players based on the TV revenue that we get also with the cap and it to go up and down. They use COVID, Jason, as in, Jay.
All right, wait. These are two different.
Well, Tom Brady said the same thing. Tom Brady goes, how come the revenues went up and yet the cap went down?
Right, but you don't get to pay for your mistake out of the revenues, okay? You have to pay for that out of your profits, okay? That's how this works, okay? The TV contracts are still the TV contracts, and whatever they pay, all right? And the players have an agreement with them that they get this X percentage share of this revenue. The owners don't get to come in and say, oh, well, we've lost $12 billion. You're going to have to take less. That's not how that works. Okay. That's $12 billion out of your pocket. Now, maybe the owners say, okay, we're going to stick it to you on the next negotiation, but that negotiation doesn't come up for 6 years. So this is going to be sort of, taken care of by the time that they get to the next negotiation. But the owners are going to get their money somehow, some way. And at the end of the day,
gambling.
They have a lot of leverage, all sorts of ways that they're going to make money. And yes, this hurts the owners. There's no question about it. It's going to be a much longer legal fight. And maybe they get it reduced down to $3 or $4 billion, right, somewhere along the line, or maybe they just get it reversed at a court of appeal or even at the Supreme Court. Given where the Supreme Court and how conservative it's become, it's incredibly business friendly. So maybe it does them a favor. That said, if Trump wins the election, Trump's not a big friend of the NFL right now. Okay, they
boxed him out.
Yeah, they boxed him out and said, you're not welcome. And he lost the lawsuit, to them. I mean, he won the lawsuit, but he only got $1 for it.
They blocked him out of buying the Bills.
Well, he wasn't qualified to buy the Bills.
I get it, but I mean, he
they
was
made him look bad. Yeah, they made him look bad in the process. There's no question. But he was never, ever qualified to purchase the Bills. Especially not compared to Terry Pagula. Like he doesn't have. I don't know that Trump is actually worth $1 billion. I mean, he's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. He's got more money than you and I.
Hey, Jason, if you have $1 billion, that's not going to buy an NFL team.
No, right. I mean, you got to have. You're looking at $8, $10, $12 billion to be able to afford an NFL team, or in the case of the Washington Commanders, you got to put together a group that has that kind of cash.
Absolutely. Let me throw some of these at you here now. What's your take on the NFC East this year. I think that division walks back. I think the Eagles obviously are the preeminent favorites to win that. How do you see Dallas this year?
It's just going to be a soap opera, and they're going to win a few games. They'll get to 10 and 11. Maybe they sneak their way up to 12 wins. But
really?
Maybe because they've got some players, right? Like they've got some guys who can impact games. And a lot, if you stay healthy enough, you can trick your way into 10. And like McCarthy's a good coach. I don't know that he's a great coach, but he's a good coach. So he's going to have them doing the right things along the way. That's why, okay, if you told me they finished 9-8, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me they finished 12-5, I'd be mildly surprised, but not shocked, because they have good enough players. But the greater question is, do I think they actually do anything? And the answer to that is no. I don't think they're like, I think the Giants are going to be awful. I think that the Commanders are going to be bad. I think Philly's going to take another, well, hard for me to judge with Philly, but I think they're in some transition. And so they win 11 or 12 games because they've got, a deep enough roster. But nobody in that division just makes me go, wow, like this has got Super Bowl contender all over it. Philly's one that should be right there, but they got to replace Kelsey. They've got to replace
Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, they got to replace Cox. I mean, they got some important guys that they got to replace, and they got to figure out their coaching staff knows how to call a game with Jalen Hurts and make it work.
I look at the Cowboys here since 2013, to your point, Jace, 106-73, 3-6 in the postseason. And you look and you're like
that's
this.
10 and 7, right? Basically every year.
Yeah, they're a 10-win team every year. They hang around a little bit of the rim, but they're never really a team that's truly a contender. They win game. What's crazy about the Cowboys? They're good, but they're just not good enough.
No, they've been searching for that secret sauce for 30 years. They don't know how to do it.
If you're Dak Prescott, if you do not have a contract by the beginning of training camp, do you bet on yourself, go into the season? And because I'll say this to you, if you look over the last 50 games, he's compatible. Regular season, albeit, he's got the same numbers as Patrick Mahomes. And if you're going to give Kirk Cousins $48 million, like you said, and I was like this, you're high. Never happened. They gave it to him. That guy he's going to make $55 million on the open market if he goes out there.
55? Try 60.
You think he's a $60 million guy if you put him on the market?
Yeah. Because what was Cousins was 48 on the open
48.
market? Yeah.
48.
He's 10 years younger than Cousins, or 8 years?
Like 36.
Yeah. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be $60
So
million.
would you, if you were him, would you hold Dallas's feet to the fire and say, hey, listen, you don't have this deal done. I'm going to go in the open market here. And you know what? Don't be careful, because I'll land in Washington and I'll make that new owner pay me $60 million. And I'll play against him twice a year.
I think they're going to go with the young kid they got, but
Jaden Daniels.
I don't think they're changing from Jaden Daniels anytime soon. But look, he's sitting pretty. He's already been paid once. He's got to have minimum $50-60 million in the bank, right? Maybe even more, with $70 million in the bank, invested, taken care of. He can sit there and play it out for all he wants. And if he doesn't get the price that he wants, he can wait it out. Because, he could get hurt. But Kirk Cousins got that money while he was hurt, right? I mean, think about it. Kirk Cousins got paid, and he couldn't play at that moment, right? Like, let's just put it in real terms. Now, barring some kind
made more money than Brady in his entire career so far, $390 million.
Yeah, he's played the system incredibly well. and almost all of it guaranteed, right?
Yes.
So Dak can, again, barring a completely catastrophic, life-altering injury, which does happen. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt like that, right? But Teddy Bridgewater was a different guy, skinnier guy. You're just not the same, right? Dak has been relatively injury-free during his career. And again, he's got the money that he can play on house money. He can sit there and I'll gamble on the upside. If that's what he chooses to do, he may look at it and say, look, being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and not having to move and being in a state that has no state income tax and this and that, he may say, the difference of $2 or $3 million a year is not worth it to me, right? To go out in the open market and not know where I'm going to be and have to deal with all this anxiety. Maybe I'll just sign a contract that is a little closer to market value. I don't need to be number one, right? He's got all those options. But the point of the matter is this. Dak holds all the leverage in this one. And Dak has the freedom to play it out however he wants to play it out without having to worry. It's not like a guy like Trevor Lawrence had to take that last contract. With whether he wanted to be with Jaguars or not. Now, everybody says he wants to be with Jaguars. Great. Good for him. He's in a place that he wants to be. But he had to take that contract because he hadn't gotten the first deal. Dak got his first deal already. So he's got a lot of cash in the bank.
Couple last questions for you, Jace. Well, let me make a comparison to you. You think Philip Rivers is a Hall of Fame guy? Because I'm going to follow up with it.
I think it's really close. Like as a person, I would say absolutely.
Oh yeah,
yes. Yeah. As a guy, and if I say, is he better or is he the same guy as Dan Fouts, right down to the team that he played most of his career? Yeah, he's Dan Fouts of this era. And unfortunately, Dan didn't get to play in the Super Bowl either, right? So it didn't work out for him. But I think Philip is right there. The problem that Philip has is that this is the most loaded era in quarterbacking ever. Those last 20 years. If you want to go basically from 2000 to 2020, that's as great an era as there ever has been in quarterbacks. Some of it's the rules made it a little bit easier for those guys, but those guys were really good. So, like if you take Eli and Philip Rivers, who came in the same year, I think that Eli makes it, even though Rivers has better regular season stats because Eli has the Super Bowls and the moments. I think Philip makes it because of the stats that he compiled, right? And it's a shame that he got to important playoff games and that they screwed it up. Marty's love Marty Schottenheimer, but that game against New England, you screwed that up. That was your best chance. You would have walked past Indianapolis playing in San Diego, and you would have beaten Chicago. And it would have been ugly in those two games if they had gotten those two games, and they just screwed it up and lost the title.
And where I was going with this is, well, isn't Dak Prescott trending that way too, towards being more of a Philip Rivers type guy? I mean, could you see him 15 years, if he continues to put up the 4,500 yards and 36 touchdowns every year, that you'd be debating him being a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Yeah, but I also think that Philip Rivers has some playoff moments that are better than Dak has. So if you're talking about how do I differentiate the two, I'd say Rivers is better to this point because he's gotten closer to the Super Bowl. But yeah, Dak Prescott is on a Hall of Fame type of trajectory. But I also said that about guys, Donovan McNabb at one point. And then all of a sudden it just went, like that.
It did.
So, you're on that trajectory. You got to finish the deal.
Do you think Tony Romo's one?
No, absolutely not.
So you think Romo had moments too, and he just was too much of this?
Yeah, too much.
Or was he just a cheap man's version of Favre?
He's not. He's Danny White.
Danny White.
Yeah, he's Danny White.
That's
there's nothing
wrong. No. He went to 5 NFC title games.
Yeah, Tony Romo had a fine career.
For an
Really-
undrafted player,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, and he's been good in the broadcast booth, no matter what you think of him and all that. He had a great career.
That's
He's a
why I
good-
brought it up,
he's a-
because he's in the broadcast booth. You know how that sometimes
Oh, it
plays a
does help.
factor.
It does help. And if you tell me that someday that Tony Romo gets in the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't sit there and go, "Oh my God, what a shame! What a terrible decision." I just look and go, "No, he's not quite there."
He's not
He's
better
just-
than Ken Anderson.
No, but I don't think Kenny Anderson's a Hall of Famer either.
I know. I think he's a really great player. I know. I think he's. Hey, Jason, you're one of the very few guys, because there's a lot of people around the league that go like this. He played in a different. I'm like, Ken Anderson was a really good football player. Okay. But when I thought of those guys back then, I thought of Staubach, and I thought of Bradshaw, and I thought of them kind of guys.
Wait
thought of
a second.
Theismann.
Kenny Anderson had the good fortune of playing with Bill Walsh in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Where Walsh did the
Was a
early,
coordinator.
where he also did the early version of the West Coast offense, the 49er version of the West Coast offense, where it was, because they're playing against the Steelers every year, and it's like, we got to get the ball out of Kenny's hands, right? So they're throwing dump passes, swing passes, dump passes, swing passes, throw the tight end, dump pass, swing pass. They're not getting back there and pull it down. Like, let's rip a 20-yard out.
I always thought Dan Pastorini was better.
As a pure player, but Ken
Yeah.
Anderson was a more effective player at the end of the day. So I'd give Ken Anderson the nod over Pastorini. But if you're talking about pure talent, no, it was Pastorini.
Tua. It's being reported now that Tagovailoa.
I thought, what Tua were you talking about? So
Tua Tagovailoa, the Miami quarterback. You know what I did? I compared his stats to Jalen Hurts' stats over the last 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And I know he's played in 10 less games because of the injuries, and there's no doubt that that's playing a factor in this. But he beats him in just about every single statistic across the board from the pocket. And on top of that, Jalen's making $50 million. What's the holdup in Miami, you think? Is it really over whether or not they are really a truly believer that this guy is going to be healthy over the next 5 years? Is that what this comes down to?
It would come down to that for me.
But here's your take. What's your option?
I like the play. I know that this is the ultimate trap of what do you do? Like, how do you play this one out? And more than likely, you sign him. But this is the kind of guy I would sign to I would do the bloated 3-year deal.
Give him more money up front?
I'd fully guarantee it. Like, I'd give him market value for 3 years. I'll fully guarantee it. Here, you can have it all guaranteed for 3 years, or something in that range. I don't want to get into a 6-year deal with you because I just don't think you're going to play through it. I don't think he's going to play through a 3-year deal. He gets hurt too much. That's just who he is, and there's still growing to be done. So I'll make a deal with you. I'll pay you market rate for 3 years. You can get yourself back to the table, or maybe slightly below market rate or something. Whatever you design, but make it acceptable for him that he should play on a 3-year deal, and he can gamble on himself. Because again, you come back to this whole Dak Prescott thing of he'll have money in the bank. He'll have the freedom to choose what he wants to do. He can sit there and say, well, this is the great place for me, and I want to be in Miami. And Miami says, we love you because you've made that progress and you've taken that next step. Or you get to the end of 3 years and you say, it was fun, but I did my best, and gave it my all, but I got to go.
He did lead the NFL in passing yards with 4,600 plus yards last year. I mean, it's not like he's not performing.
Look, I like the player, but are you telling me?
No, I'm not doing it either.
Yeah, like, are you saying that Tua Tagovailoa is going to take you consistently to championship games and Super Bowls and win, and you sit there and go, I think he's kind of the same guy as Kirk Cousins, right? So that's a good player, deserves to get paid, deserves to be in that area, but can we do it on a 3 or 4 year deal? like we did with Cousins this last offseason.
I want to sneak one last one in on you here.
Okay.
One thing, Jace. I keep trying to tell people, players aren't paid on wins. Players are paid on statistics. I mean, Justin Jefferson's not going to win, like you just said, a Super Bowl. He was paid on the numbers and those fabulous numbers that he put up in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, by the way. And Cousins has been paid on his numbers. He's not been paid on championship appearances. Same thing here when you're looking around the room. So when you're negotiating and you're looking for a price for a Brock Purdy, how's that going to look? I mean, Purdy wins a lot of games. He's putting numbers up. What's that number going to look like at the end of this year? According to Jed York, they're going to address that at the end of the year. Probably one of the reasons why Brandon Ayuk may be traded by the beginning of training camp here, because they're not going to be able to afford the player.
They're going
to start having to do that.
They're going to sign Ayuk.
You think they're going to sign him?
Yeah, the plan here is they're going to sign Ayuk. They'll get it done. And then Debo's going to be gone at the end of the year.
Debo?
Yeah.
Huh?
Debo, probably play one more year with Debo, but like if
you think the next 2 years the writing's on the wall for Debo to be out?
Yeah, Debo's out. I think Debo's out in a year. I think Debo's at the end of this coming season, he's gone.
Wow.
I think that they sign Ayuk. The offer that they've made to Ayuk is fair. It's not great, and it's below where Waddle is.
It's about 19.
No, he's much higher than that.
It's 21?
Yeah, because isn't Waddle at 28?
Something like that, 26. Because it's not quite Tyreek Hill, and the Dolphins want to restructure that deal because it's a lot of phony money at the back end of the Tyreek Hill deal. It's supposed to be like $45 million an annual year. The Dolphins are like, that's not happening. So they're going to try to put some real money into it.
This Ayuk is a shade below where Waddle is, and the belief in the Waddle in the Ayuk camp is that he deserves to get paid more than Waddle. And I understand the logic. I would say there's some flaws in Ayuk's game that I would be really careful if I was Ayuk, and if I was really honest with myself, and I know there are people close to him who understand this, that he's best suited to play in an offense with Kyle Shanahan calling plays and with Brock Purdy knowing how to push his buttons and get him to hustle on all plays and play things through. That Ayuk is kind of guy who he can get. I'd never want to imply that he's lazy, but he's not thorough on everything you have to do, right?
No, I think what his problem is, he had like a lot of wide receivers, Jason, when the play's not play side to him, he takes plays off. And that's a trend. He may watch this. You maybe not take plays off is a bad way of saying it, but when the play's not coming to you, when you watch Devontae Smith run a route and the play's not coming to him, he's an exceptional decoy. I don't see that same type of presence that Ayuk gives the other side of the field for San Francisco.
That's the best way to put it, because again, I think he plays really hard. He just needs somebody on him who, like in the case of Purdy, what Purdy does is Purdy can get to the fourth read. And I still remember there was like the second or third game that Purdy was playing in, and Purdy takes a shot to the right end zone. I think it was against Seattle at home, right? And Ayuk runs an out. It's supposed to be an out that goes to an out and up, depending on what it looks like. And again, Ayuk is like the fourth guy in the pattern, right? So he does the out and up, and then kind of, stops because he doesn't think the guy's going to get to it. Purdy throws the ball, and it hits open grass at the other end because he throws it to the back of the end zone, right? It's the greatest thing ever is Purdy just puts his hands on his hips and stares at Ayuk. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't stomp his feet, doesn't point his fingers, does his hands are on his hip, and he's just staring at him, going, yo, dude, you better hit the up. The out, the out, the up and out was enough. You got to hit the deep part of this, right? You got to get going. It's good. And Ayuk was like, oh man, serious, because he actually threw the ball, and Ayuk lost an opportunity for a touchdown. And then he got the stare down. And then when he got to the bench, he got an earful from Kyle. But it was the stare down that was the most important, because the quarterback is saying, I saw it. Where are you?
I got it. Jason, I'm going to leave you with this. I have to do this because we're fair and balanced on this program. And I know I know what side of the aisle you sit on. And I like both sides of the aisle. What'd you make of that thing last night?
Didn't watch.
Oh, why not? 65 million people watched that thing. You knew what was coming, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I'm not surprised at all.
But that's the smartest thing I've heard anybody say, because you know why? You went like this. That thing last night wasn't going to dictate my changing of my vote and what I'm going to do. I'm not asking you to tell us. I'm just saying that wasn't going to change your mind last night.
No, and I'm like everybody.
I love it.
Everybody can look at my.
I got it.
My Twitter, if you want to figure out where I stand on it wasn't going to change, and both guys aggravate. One guy aggravates me a lot more than the other, but they both aggravate me, right? Because this is dreadful. Like this choice is awful, and I don't care what side you are. Like neither side can sit here and go, "Oh, my candidate's awesome." You can say that you believe in your side. You can say you believe in being either conservative or, a Republican or a Democrat. I understand that justification. But you cannot tell me on either side, okay, that, man, I'm fired up to vote for this guy.
Listen, wait, ready? I dubbed it this. The geezers at Caesars. They should have held it at Caesars. And get this, the two biggest sponsors of it could have been Geritol and Depends. And I would have said you could have had this bad puppy right there at Caesar's Palace.
It's just so awful. It's so awful. It's just, it's so embarrassing.
Jason, those guys can't be the best they can't be the best options.
Dan, you and I have better options than they are. Seriously, like you and I are on opposite ends of the aisle. But we can figure out how to do this better than those two clowns, right?
And we can talk to each other.
Right. Like I can say,
hey, I think Trump just shut him off. Hey, the pin's hand. Hey,
I'm back.
Hey, I think Trump shut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. Finish up.
I know he probably did. He goes, right. Don't say this stuff. No, like we can. You can tell me I'm full of it. And I can tell you you're full of it, and say, hey, look, this is how you solve this. This is how you solve this problem. And that's why I've always said, like, people ask me, oh, you want this liberal way of doing it. It's like, no, I want this way that works. So I'm willing to consider all options. Right? Like, but find the way that works. And the way that works depends on what the problem is, right? That's how this goes. Right now, we're just getting whatever. I don't want to get into politics.
No. I'm with you.
But these two guys are just clowns. They're bad. One is less harmful than the other in my view, but they're both bad. And that's how I view it. They're bad. They don't inspire. I thought that Trump against Clinton was horrible. I thought Trump versus Biden was just like, okay, there's some guy who's like a human being, but whatever. I'm still not inspired. And now it's like they're just both horrible. They're just it's just awful. Whatever.
I got to tell you, Bill Clinton. The reason I'm partial because we went to the White House and won the national title. Plus, they're Arkansas guys. So Jimmy and Jerry know him, and Jimmy Johnson actually knows Bill Clinton.
Pat Jones will tell you some stories about Bill Clinton. He will tell you.
But you know what I loved about Clinton? His second term, he was a great president. And I'll tell you why. He never gave exactly his party everything they wanted. He never gave them everything they wanted. He kind of met in the middle, and that's how he got his legislation passed across.
I hate to. I'll tell.
Hey, for a guy that was, whatever you could say about him, he knew how to get shit done.
It was Slick Willie, baby.
Absolutely, Jace.
Slick
Have
Willie.
a great weekend, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk to
you. Got it. That is our good friend Jason Cole. Yeah, I got a chance to meet Bill. He would come down to the University of Miami a couple times, and Slick Willie, Jimmy Johnson would say, "Here comes Bill Clinton," and I go, "I know who Bill Clinton is," and he's like, "No, you don't know who Bill Clinton is." And I'm going like this. When I go, "What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean?" He goes, "I know people went to school with him, and I went to Arkansas too." And it was a little. I think he was a little after Jimmy and Jerry, or they may have went. I think it was a couple of years after that those two, but they all knew each other, man. Yeah. Hey, Yale. Hey, man. So what? He had an issue in the oral office. What do you want to say? Bill, hey, if you ever met Bill Clinton, you'd like him. If you met him and you shook his hand, you talked to him for a couple minutes, you got to make you laugh your ass off, man. He's a funny dude, man. I met Bill Clinton when I was in AmeriCorps City Year. JM, wow, that's back in the Kennedy days. Slick Willie. Hey, I'm going to leave it there, man. All right. The legendary Philly Godfather is going to join us in this hour. Hit the like button. Keep it here. National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. We appreciate you guys coming aboard here on this Friday. The day after. Xander's right. You got to comment on it. Got to make a show of it. But man, you know what? What was I loved about that thing last night? You can't have polar opposite ideologies and watch two people go back and forth and not be able to communicate. The two things that both those guys showed last night, hey, man, you got to come to center to make decisions. You're not going to get everything you want. I think that's great leadership. You got to give and take. I think that's what makes a great coach. Hey, you got to have conviction in what you're thinking. You got to have a presence in your locker room. Okay? You got to. You got to have a presence inside your locker room. But, I mean, you can't just go, this is my way and this is your, it won't work that way. Seals, how deep is the edge rushers in next year's draft? I'll take a look at that next week, my friend. They'll have people voting Democrat another 50 years. Only 98 likes. Guys, let's see if we can get that number up there. We really appreciate you guys being here on this Friday. Thank you guys so much. Okay? Let's see here. You know what I'm saying, yo? You gotta come to center a little bit here. Seals, what's your take on Anais Smith? Like the kid. Want to see the kid maybe get the opportunity to start in the 3-hole. Hey, play the young kids. Play the young kids. Okay? Absolutely. I want to start playing these guys. By the way, I want to ask a couple questions here before Philly Godfather comes on. And I really appreciate you guys. So please hit the like button. Thank you again. How about this one here? Will the Eagles have 50 or more sacks this year? Yes or no? Will they have 50 or more sacks? Senor says easy. Yes. So you think there'll be more than 50 sacks this year? Okay. How about this one? You can't, not with Vic. That's 3 sacks per game. Okay. Will the Eagles be better than 20th in pass defense this year? Yes or no? Will they be better? Carter will get 8 from the interior. Huff will get 10. Smith will get 5. BG will get 4. BG's not getting 4. And Sweat will get 8. You guys think you're going to be better than 20 pass defense? Some people, what do you think, top 10 you're going to be? Do you? Shane says, hell yes. Sweat missed OTAs, by the way. Sweat can't get 8 playing second string. I don't think, Senor, he's going to be on the second string. I think he's going to be more in a position where he's going to be more in a forefront. I don't think Vic's going to play more 34, and that's going to look like a 34. I think he's going to be more 43, especially in 3rd and long. Okay? You don't have – and Sean brings up a spectacular point. You don't have to do a lot to improve on last year's defense. Hey, that's right. You don't. Okay? I told you Eagles were not going to play 34. Senor, that's what his forte is, though, and that's what the base is. It's 34 when you look at the depth chart. But I do agree. I think they're going to be more 43 look the majority of the game. John McMullen's been saying that as well, too, that they're going to be saying they're going to be doing that, and they're going to be playing more 43. So Our friend the Philly Godfather is going to join us in a couple minutes. I want to throw this at you here. I got to hand it to the Kansas City Chiefs. I begged the Eagles to sign this guy. But because of some of the people that, and again, people like over there, that Crossing Broad thing, we're saying that Matt Ariza is going to be a cancer to a football team. And this guy's a rapist. And that the Eagles should not have any comment on trying to bring in a player like that. Well, Andy Reid came out over the last couple of days saying, man, we really love Matt Ariza. He's really just fit in here. They cut the veteran punter that they had to keep him. And one of the offseason moves that the Kansas City Chiefs made that is going to be a gigantic move for them is signing a guy who's going to change field position. Fantastic. That's called putting your balls out there. That's called putting them out there. Guy ended up getting vindicated, exonerated. Andy goes like this. But doesn't Andy have a history of that when he signed Michael Vick? Andy took a chance on Michael Vick. That's the one thing that you can rely on with Andy Reid. You could talk to him about things like that. Hey, let's sign T.O. He's maybe not a guy that you want on your roster all the time. But you know what he is? He's a playmaker. You can convince me. Andy can be convinced. This is what I was talking about with leadership. You know how hard that must have been to go to Andy Reid and Clark Hunt, the owner of the team, and go, hey, especially with what happened with his kid who got involved in a out of the locker room issue when it came to drunk driving there in Kansas City. Leaving the facility, he ended up getting into a car accident. You know what Andy did? Andy signs Matt Ariza. Was Ariza convicted in court? No. He was accused. He was never convicted. He was never convicted. Gave a little girl brain damage. It's terrible. But can you imagine? So Andy goes to Clark Hunt with all the negativity, and they sign this kid and give him an opportunity to get his career back. National Football League, and because of our media that we have, they indicted the kid in the public court of public opinion. He was never guilty. And you ruined multiple lives. The people that were involved in that unfortunate situation at San Diego State, his career, the collateral damage that you had everywhere. It was like the Duke lacrosse case. Look at what social media did. And get this, nobody's ever held accountable for that stuff. Now, how many lives you ruin by just putting people on trial in social media. We see it all the time. Once again, call someone a liar. After a while, the lie becomes reality. Matt Ariza is like the team and the organization are falling in love with him. Sam says false accusations are a plague now because of social media. Those people should be charged with defamation of character. That's what he did. He kept it open that he could sue the state, and also he could sue the National Football League. The National Football League gave him an opportunity. Good for him, man. Okay? Look at Shane. F. Matt Ariza, even though the guy didn't do anything wrong. I stand my ground. What's your ground? What's your case? He didn't do nothing. He wasn't there. So what's your case? Because one of your boys said it on social media? Shane's a prime example of what we're talking about here. What's your stance, bro? You don't have one. Good for Andy. Isn't he hurt a little? No, he didn't. Matt Arisa didn't hurt anybody. What a week. I'll tell you something, man. I love my weekly visits. And I had a great conversation with Ice Cube. By the way, Ice Cube's in Des Moines, I think it is, and he couldn't do it today. Going to work on us with the next couple days. We're going to get Ice Cube on. Going to talk some big three. But I had a conversation with him yesterday. And let's bring my boy up here. The legendary Philly Godfather, who's going to be soon a Martin Scorsese man. A movie out there. And him being able to hopefully have big sills in it. I don't think we're connected here, though, Philly Godfather. We got to try to get that up here. Hey, why do you guys call him that, man? This guy's trying to make you a bunch of money here. Philly Godfather, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Dan?
I can hear you, but I can't hear you and I can't see you. Let's try to reconnect a little bit here.
Yeah.
Let's try to do that again. Let's see if we can do that. This guy's just trying to make you some money. Look at flexing. You love it, don't you? Okay? You love it. Oh, I had a great conversation. So what we're going to try to do is Ice Cube is now going to get the script from Philly Godfather. Philly Godfather is going to try to put a movie together, and he's going to have big sills in the movie, and I'm going to give the script to Ice Cube. So, I mean, hey, let's bring in Philly Godfather. There we go.
Can you hear me?
I got you, brother. Hey, listen. So I talked to Ice Cube, and Ice Cube said this. He goes, "Hey, I like the script." I go, "By the way, they want to put me in it too." He goes, "Well, have them send the script over to me." So, we're looking for a director for him. He goes, "Hey, I'm working on a couple movies now, but I might have a guy. So let me have my people take a look at it." So you're on the desk of Ice Cube, man, starting right after the program. We'll talk a little bit about the Philly Godfather's motion picture and being the next Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I like Ice Cube. He brings a grit to everything he does. He brings a lot of flavor to it, a lot of urban flavor, and that's exactly what this story is all about. Philadelphia, New York, Vegas, Costa Rica, and the jungles of Mexico. So it's going to be fun.
Absolutely, man. All right, since you're a betting man and you put money down on everything, what did you make of last night, my friend?
Catastrophe for the Democrats. If you just look at the odds offshore, before the debate, I think Trump was like minus 130. Now he's minus 185, closing in on minus 200. Implied probability of around almost 66% that he wins this thing. I don't know why they put Biden on stage. I mean, they know his condition.
They wanted this.
I don't know, because he's not going to let go easily. And do they have enough time to replace him? Gavin Newsom, he was a mess. You've seen what he's done to California. He's had alcohol problems. He's going to rehab a couple times. He slept with his babysitter. I forget who the lady was. And the guy's been a complete mess. California's a complete mess. Who are you going to replace him with? The only guy, the Democrats, if they were smart, but they're not going to do it, if they could replace Biden with RFK, well, he'll give Trump a run for the money in the election. But other than that, Trump squashes everybody, anyone they have. I mean, Kamala Harris, it's not even close. It's going to get ugly in November for the Democrats.
How about this? What if they put Michelle Obama in there?
Big Mike, I don't know.
Get this, because then you could put Barack Obama as VP.
I guess. I don't think they got enough time to put that whole thing together. I mean, they got another month before the convention.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running out of time. Gavin Newsom, his odds dropped at plus 600. So he's actually the favorite out of all the other people they could use to fill in for Sleepy Joe. But he's not letting go. He wants another term. And he was out today all fired up. Who knows what they juiced him up with. He was out there screaming and yelling. The night before, he couldn't form a sentence. He was mumbling. I didn't know what he was talking about. Trump didn't know what he was talking about. I don't think Joe even knew what he was talking about at times during the debate last night. It got really ugly for the Democrats.
I actually like RFK a little bit. I think he's kind of more in the middle there a little bit. So, hey, let me get to some football ones here now when it comes to odds. Have the Eagles line gone up or down at all in this offseason as you guys get ready? We're about 26 days out from the start of training camp. When you start to put the odds together, when do you start looking at teams that are your top 5 teams that you're going to start really eyeballing and maybe starting putting some of these future bets on? Or have you already done that already as you're getting prepared for the 2024 season? Have you already started with some of these teams where you went, this is a 3,000 to 1 pick to make it to the Super Bowl? Do you start doing that now? And as you get closer, you make more weekly bets? Is that how this works, where you're looking at long-term bets now?
Yeah, anywhere where I can find an edge. If I think the price is off, if there's value on betting on a team. I haven't bet a team to win the Super Bowl yet. I have bet the Eagles at plus 25 cents to win their division, NFC East. I don't think Dallas has done enough. I don't think the other 2 teams in the division are as good. That's why I took them to win the division. Their odds to win the Super Bowl haven't changed. There's 8 teams ahead of them still. There's about 8 or 9 teams that have better odds to end up with the most wins on the season than the Eagles. But when it comes to the NFC East, I think the Eagles win the division this year. Already bet them. Last year I was on the Cowboys. Everyone hated me. They ended up winning the division. This year I'm on the Birds. So hopefully they love me. I bet the Packers to go over 9.5 wins already. I bet the Steelers to go over their season win total. And that's basically all I've done so far. But as information comes into the market, opinions will change. And we'll be looking to find some value on these season win totals or futures, in the NFL.
What's a better value pick right now, Lions or Eagles?
I would say the Eagles, because the Packers are coming on strong, and the Bears got better. That division is going to be a lot closer than people think. It's going to be one of the tougher divisions.
No one knows what Minnesota's going to look like with McCarthy.
Right, and I like JJ. And they got weapons up there. So that's going to be a really tough division. So I would say the Eagles probably have the easier road to get to where they got to
be. Chiefs or Bengals? What's a better value pick?
Man, you can get 15 to 1, 14 to 1 on the Bengals. I'm not supposed to give it out, but you got me on that one, Dan. Yeah, I like the Bengals a little bit this year. There's more value on the Bengals. The Chiefs are great. You can't quantify greatness. We talk about it all the time. Mahomes is the man, closest thing to Tom Brady. Maybe someday he'll surpass him. That's a tough, it's not easy to do. But yeah, I think the Bengals are going to have a real strong team this year.
Tell me what your take is on the Browns. Are they a safe pick?
That division's stacked too. The Steelers got better.
Boy, the AFC North is spectacular.
It's unreal, man. The Ravens are supposed to win 11.5 games. Them and the Chiefs have the highest season win totals on the board. That's a tough division. I think they regress a little bit. If they can stay healthy, that was the biggest problem last year. They got banged up everywhere. They lost Chubb. They lost a bunch of other guys, and they brought in Flacco, and they still, surprised a lot of people down the stretch. So I think they take a step back this year.
When you're looking at the Jaguars, by the way, Shade Khan came out and said something yesterday that I was kind of shocked. The owner, one of the richer owners too, by the way, in the NFL, he said that was an institutional disaster and meltdown, that 1-5 dive that they had. Now, the quarterback got hurt last year, so Lawrence wasn't there, had a shoulder injury. Not to make excuses for the guy. You think Doug's on a hot seat there a little bit?
Nah, not yet, but maybe at the end of the year. I mean, this Texans team, lights out. They get better odds than the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Their offense got better. Their defense got better. They picked up so many weapons. C.J. Stroud, kid's a beast. And watch out for the Colts. They're going to be better as well. So it's another tough division.
Dak Prescott. I want to get your thoughts on this. Dak Prescott finished second in the most valuable player voting last year. He led the National Football League in touchdown passes. And Dak doesn't have a contract. I said this to Jason Cole in the last hour. If you were a betting man, which you are, would you look at the Cowboys and say, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to sign a contract. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to go into the regular season, because you got to feel Philly Godfather. If a guy like Kirk Cousins could get $48 million, Dak Prescott has won 36 ball games, and I get the postseason. Totally understand it. But with the last 50 games, he's got Patrick Mahomes numbers. Would you bet on yourself?
If I'm Prescott, absolutely, especially with that offensive line. I mean, he's a byproduct of that offensive line as well. One of the best offensive line in football over the last, 4 or 5 years that he's been on the Cowboys. So his numbers are skewed because of how great that offensive line is, but he should take advantage of it. And if I'm Dak, I'm betting on myself. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm not giving him the money, But if I'm Dak, I'm betting on myself, and I'm taking the shot. And regardless of how great that offensive line is, if he goes somewhere else, his numbers aren't going to be the same. I would bet on that.
How about this? Jalen Hurts. Let's get back to him a bit. It's been a pretty noisy offseason for him. And you're now hearing people, and I got to tell you, Les Bowen said something on Birds 365 the other day. You know what's funny? He goes like this. He goes, how does everybody know Jalen Hurts didn't like the 2023 offense? Here we go. I mean, everybody got paid. Everyone got raises. Everyone had great years. He made everybody better around him. I mean, both receivers had over 1,000 again. One guy had 1,500 yards. Running back got an $8 million deal in Chicago. I mean, why are they ripping that up, starting all over again with Kellen Moore? Do you think he's in a small Doug Peterson battle with the front office going, I'm so sick of the turnover we had? There's only been one coordinator, Philly Godfather, that he's had for a year and a half. It was Shane Steichen. I mean, he's never really had consistency.
No, and he's the type of quarterback that needs it. He needs to be surrounded, by some of the better players in the league. He's got him at wide receiver. He's got him at tight end. He's got him at running back now. And that offensive line for the last few years has been one of the best in the NFL, definitely top 10 when it comes to pass protection and run blocking. But, yeah, you definitely need – I mean, this is going to be the test, right? If Kellen Moore goes in there, he's had success with Dak. If he goes in there and Jalen embraces this offense and, comes back with MVP numbers again, well, then he's definitely the guy, moving forward in the future. But if he has another season like last year where Baker Mayfield outperformed him, well, then this organization has to start second guessing, their opinion of Jalen Hurts. So this is a big season for this quarterback on this team.
You know what? I had a guy in Miami, because he knows that I have you on every Friday, ask me to ask you this about Shohei Ohtani. So when a guy places bets and it's his so-called interpreter and he's placing bets, is there any way possible that Shohei Ohtani had no understanding or nothing to know? This guy had direct access to his bank accounts. He had wire transfers. He had everything. Is there any way? Because somebody asked me, he goes, how is Rose not in the Hall of Fame when he bet on baseball? And all of a sudden you got a guy here who's placing over $4 million in bets, and he's saying he didn't know anything about it. The translator's in jail now. Let me hear your take on this.
I don't believe him. I mean, do you believe him?
No.
I mean, listen, the
$4 million, I would know that was missing.
I mean, then again, he signed one of the biggest contracts ever.
Agreed.
And when he pitches, he's probably the most valuable player to ever play baseball, because he's on both sides. He's pitching and he's hitting. And I tell people all the time, the year Albert Pujols was tearing up the league and he had crazy stats. As a hitter, you're only worth about 6.5 wins to your team. So Ohtani's almost as good as Pujols was hitting the ball, and then he's giving you 15 wins. The guy's worth 20 wins in the regular season to a baseball team. So that's how important he is. That's how important he is to Major League Baseball. And he's got more money than anyone in the league. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
I think you're kind of skirting the issue, and you probably know more than what's going on here. And I'm sure you heard through the grapevine a little bit more about this story here.
You tripped me up earlier with the Bengals. I wasn't supposed to give it out. You got one now. I ain't tripping up again.
I'm sitting there and I'm going like, hang on here, man. Because my boy goes like this. He goes, surely he knows that, that guy has to have. I mean, when you're making a bet and the guy's making a bet for you and the guy's missing $4 million out of his bank account, you're just going to go like, I had no idea he was doing that. I mean, come on, dude. If I saw $25,000 missing out of your bank account, I would know that. And I'm sure that's what that's equivalent to.
If you put everything in a sample box, right?
Yeah.
Show he doesn't know what's happening. Maybe show he knew the guy was gambling and let him gamble as long as he wasn't gambling, or Ohtani was gambling. So 2 out of the 3 aren't good. So there's a 66% chance that he either knew about it or he didn't care about it. And either way, that's not good for the Major League Baseball.
Speaking of that, give me some baseball ones because I go online and I watch your baseball picks on what you're looking at. I mean, right now, are the Phillies a great option right now? Is it Phillies or Yankees or Dodgers right now that are the better and safer and more valued pick?
Well, we took the Phillies before the season started. I gave it out to you guys on the show. Them and the Yankees. We took the Phillies at 13-1. I think they're down to 5-1 now. So a lot of the value has been extracted. But I still think they're the team to beat. I mean, if you look at the odds to win the Cy Young, you got Wheeler, you got Suarez, and you got Nola, 3 pitchers. I mean, there's maybe 4 or 5 other guys in the top 10 other than those guys to win the Cy Young this year. And Wheeler's the odds-on favorite, and I think Suarez is the 4th, and Nola's the 8th to win the Cy Young. So you got 3 amazing pitchers. You got Harper, even though he's a little banged up. I think he's got the 3rd best odds to win the MVP. This team is stacked. And unless something crazy happens and they get bombarded with a bunch of injuries, I think they're going to make the World Series this year. Now, it's tough. Teams get hot at the end. We've seen that with the Diamondbacks last year, a few years back with the Nationals. And you got to watch out for those sleeper teams that get hot at the end of the year. But Yankees, Phillies, Cleveland Indians, Guardians, whatever you want to call them, and the Dodgers right now, along with the Orioles, they're the teams to beat.
I call them the Cleveland prophylactics. So, hey, one last one here. So, Bronny James gets drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers at 55. Nobody in their right mind was going to draft this guy. I mean, so the Lakers draft LeBron's buddy. Kobe's agent is the general manager, Rob Pelinka. Jeannie Buss is not Jerry Buss, that's for damn sure. And now you have the kid playing on the team. I mean, the Lakers are now the new version of the Dallas Cowboys, the way that they're looking, aren't they?
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Listen, if I had that kind of privilege, I'd want my kid to be on the team.
My wife is going to agree with you on this.
Right. So if I was LeBron, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, privilege has no color. And people always talk about a certain type of privilege with a certain color associated to it. But we all know over the years, the people in power, the people in position, regardless of color, race, religion, they're the ones with the privilege. And what LeBron James did was he ended up looking like a hypocrite. For years, he's complaining about privilege. And now he just showed what privilege really is, the true definition of privilege. So that's why I was on Twitter saying, listen, privilege has no color. It's people in power that have the privilege. And LeBron James just showed that to the whole world. He put his son on a team that doesn't belong in the NBA. No one else would have drafted him. And I would have done the same thing. And God bless, if I could play with my kid in the NBA, I would love that. But again, that's called privilege.
Yeah, and being a hypocrite, because you're right. Because at the end of the day, this guy's constantly, especially back during the George Floyd stuff, he's telling everybody about white privilege and all that shit. And all of a sudden, you're starting to talk about it, and you turn around and you go, wait a minute. You're the prime example of it. But to your point, I said the same shit to my wife. My wife goes, so wait a minute here. If you ran a law firm and your daughter was the worst student in the class and she graduated the bar, you're telling me you're not hiring your kid? And I'm like, no, I'm hiring my kid. She's like, well, I know it's, you look at it that way. You're right. Would you do that for your kid? Yes. But at the end of the day, it puts you in I guess your kid puts you in compromising positions when you have children, I guess.
And the other issue I got with LeBron is, Bird, Magic, Jordan, Kobe, Shaq,
Wilt,
all the guys that made the NBA.
Jerry West.
First. Think about what the ratings used to be in this league. And then they passed the torch to LeBron. And it's not my opinion. This is fact. The ratings have plummeted since he became the face of the NBA. So he's doing something wrong, whether it's his politics or the kneeling, whatever LeBron's doing. And on the court, he's doing everything right.
Absolutely.
Can be. He's an amazing player. Borderline top 10, in my opinion. And people get mad at me. I think that's a compliment.
It is.
LeBron James is borderline top 10. But at the end of the day, when it comes to ratings and the NBA, he's hurt the product. We got to be honest. And, they passed the torch maybe to the wrong guy. I don't know. I mean, he's a great player. He's a father. I would have done the same thing. He's a hypocrite, and he's hurt the NBA. That's my opinion of LeBron James.
Here, and it's so complex. But if you think about it, he's never been in trouble with the law. He's never hurt his brand. He's become a billionaire. He came from an impoverished situation, massive poverty with a single parent mom. He gives to the Akron Boys and Girls Clubs. He puts these scholarships out there. I'm with you what you said. I'm not disagreeing with you.
He's done a lot of great things.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to put a course study of how you are to act as a guy who is supposed to be embodying what your league is and how to conduct yourself as a brand, LeBron James is a course study on how to do it right, because, hey, we rip him on his politics. Okay, well, we rip everybody on their politics, whether good or bad, what have you. But at the end of the day, he's not done anything to damage, his reputation. He's not been caught with other women. He's not been out drinking. He didn't do what Kobe did, Eagle, Colorado.
Yeah, remember that?
That whole thing was a nightmare for Kobe Bryant and his family, and for the NBA. They, a lot of the sponsors like Nike and Coca-Cola, they paused their endorsement of him. Then they came back, obviously, years later. But LeBron's never had any of that.
No, it's amazing.
Okay, so he's been a course study.
It's amazing because he's elevated his brand while he's hurt the brand of the NBA.
Right.
It's a weird situation to be in. But again, the ratings are the worst in history. The players, they seem like they don't care no more. They're getting paid, God bless them, all that money. There's no rivalries anymore. The Celtics, Sixers, there's no, that isn't there no more. The game, the product, everyone's shooting 3-pointers. It's not, whatever it is, it's probably a combination of all those things and LeBron and the politics that has hurt the NBA, big time. So, but yeah, like you said, LeBron's done great for his brand, for his family, and he means well. And he, he seems like he's a great guy, but again, his politics have hurt the NBA.
Last one here for you. Caitlin Clark, has she done anything in the betting world? And has she, because you just mentioned it, I watched that Angel Reese. By the way, it got 3 million viewers. It's one of the highest watched games in 30 years. And the thing's been around, or 28 years or whatever. I watched that game this last Sunday between those two. It was one of the highest watched games that you've seen in basketball, even for the men during the regular season. Has she done anything to move the needle when it comes to betting? Because I can't think that the WNBA was a place where people went and put money down, because, again, I don't cover it. And that's not because, that's my ignorance. I don't cover soccer that much either, because that's not something I enjoy. However, that doesn't mean that the World Cup's not the biggest event on the planet. That's a me thing. Has she done anything to move that needle on more money coming in on betting on WNBA?
Yeah, the betting handle has grown 10 to 20 times with her in the league. And what people fail to realize is sports betting built the NFL. Sports betting saved the UFC. If you guys remember, UFC was about to go out of business. Then they start putting prices on these fights. People start betting them. And then they were on Spike TV. And that's what saved, because the UFC was going to go under before sports betting. Bare knuckles, they put a price on bare knuckles. And you see that blowing up. So anything you can bet on, people are going to love to watch. And now you got a player like Caitlin Clark. She's bringing all the eyes to the table. And who's not going to bet on her or bet against her if you don't like her? Sports betting has built all these leagues. And, it's been taboo for years to talk about it. Now it's out in the open. Now the NFL has half sheets with all these sports books. They're partnering up with everybody, and they're making money from it. So, yeah, she definitely brought a lot of money to the table when it comes to betting on WNBA.
Was there a lot of money moved around NHL for that finals? Did you see any money going around there? Because they also had great numbers.
Yeah. The bigger the numbers, the bigger the sports betting handle. And the NHL for years, I've clowned about it. I like watching hockey once in a while.
Me too.
I used to always say it puts me to sleep, but I'm just busting chops. But, yeah, the betting handle has grown for the NHL. Betting handle has grown for the WNBA. The NFL obviously is King Kong when it comes to that. Betting handle has dropped in the NBA. So, that tells you a lot about what's going on with these leagues.
Absolutely. Tell the folks where they can find you, my good friend.
Twitter, Philly Godfather. You can stop by the PhillyGodfather.com for all my legendary winning sports betting information. And every Friday, 5:30 p.m. on the best show in the world, Dan Sileo Show.
By the way, I love your takes. I love the videos too. Dude, I had to steal the one with the horse and the guy. That I don't know. I don't know what the hell that thing was, but I had to take that video. And Philly Godfather goes like this: "Hey, this is gonna be an Olympic sport pretty soon." Hey, it wouldn't shock me. That thing's gonna be an Olympic sport. Holy cow! I thought I was watching like the Don Corleone, and that was the head that was in the bed with the guy. He's sitting there running around. He's got this head, and he's jumping over all these like Western Trail things. Holy cow, man. That thing was funny as shit, man. I appreciate you, brother. I'll catch you next week.
Keep betting Trump. It's going to be a landslide. I'll talk to you guys later. Let's go, Brandon.
That is my friend, the Philly Godfather. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills, National Football Show. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. 27 days away to the start of training camp. 70 days from today, the National Football League will kick off. Actually, it kicks off the day before Thursday with Chiefs and Ravens, and then Packers and Eagles on Friday. Think about that, on what kind of week that's going to be that week in September. College football starts the week previous to that because Miami plays the Gators on August 31st in Gainesville. Then the following week, you start Thursday Night Ball, and you start Chiefs and Ravens. Then you turn around on Friday, and you have Packers-Eagles. Then you have the full slate of college football games on Saturday. Then you turn around and you have the full slate of games in the NFL on Sunday. Then you have Monday. I mean, football is right here. I mean, dude, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. College football's television packages. I mean, college football is the second most famous sport and the highest rated sport in America right now. It's college football. There's no other sport with higher ratings than college football except the NFL. Football is king. Even the UFL did better than what most people thought. About 1 million people watched those games when it came to spring football. There's an appetite for it. This country loves football. You know what I think the number one thing that Major League Baseball did to their sport that hurt it? Yeah, maybe you agree or disagree. I think they oversaturated it with all the television games. When Yale and I or Big Joe or whomever were growing up, it was a game of the week on Saturday. And the game of the week on Saturday could have been the Minnesota Twins with Rod Carew versus the Yankees. Or it could have been Minnesota Twins versus George Brett's Royals. But it was the only game on nationally. I never watched national games when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I watched Major League Baseball. You know how it was set up? This is going to sound crazy. The only way you were able to watch, hey, somebody tell me, the only way you were able to watch your favorite baseball teams was this. When the Yankees were away, you got a chance to watch the Yankees. You didn't watch home games. You watched away games. So WOR would air Mets games with Lindsey Nelson. And WPIX used to do the Yankee games. So what you would do is you would watch Mets when they were on the road, and then you would turn around and you would watch the Yankees when they were on the road, because what they tried to do was, if you had two baseball teams in those respected cities, you didn't want to have both teams. Sometimes you would have both teams that would be away, and you didn't really get a chance to watch Major League Baseball that particular games. But the national games were also Sunday. I just remember the game on Saturday, and I remember that they used to have like the national game. They used to have Tony Kubek and Joe Garagiola used to do the games. This is when I was a kid. And man, I would wait. It didn't matter who was playing. Could have been the Mariners versus the Anaheim Angels. It didn't matter. It was a game that I had never seen these teams, and I never saw really any of the players, because the only thing I ever watched was Yankees and Mets. So that's how baseball, in the NFL, I think the NFL has started to become a little bit oversaturated. But you know what? That's not what the public's saying. I think until the NFL finds out, well, this is too much, that's when the NFL will back up. Shit, they're going to 18 games now. They're going to go to an 18-game schedule, and they're doing Thursday night football. Hey, it wouldn't shock me one day if we start seeing Wednesday night football or 2 games on Monday night. And then when you go to 18 games, maybe you do have 2 Monday night games. I know ESPN has done a lot of that. And until the NFL sees that nobody really is going to start going to these ball games like that, the National Football League is going to continue. Major League Baseball's oversaturated it. And I think that's exactly kind of what happened with hockey. The overexpansion. Hey, man, you diluted your product. It's not really great teams like it used to be back in the day. There was a time frame from 1973 through the 80s where only 4 teams won the Stanley Cup. For like 23 years, Flyers, the Islanders, the Canadiens, and the Oilers. Yeah, it was Flyers, Islanders, Canadiens, Oilers. There were the 4 teams in 23 years that won all the cups. And they didn't have all the teams. They didn't have Carolina. They had New Haven then, or they had the Hartford Whalers then. Bruins didn't win, Kyle. The Bruins didn't win in the 80s. a Stanley Cup. I thought they won in 72. That was the year Bobby Orr. That was the year that Bobby Orr won it. I thought it was 72 or 71 that Orr. I got to show you guys this, man. It's one of my favorite pictures of all time. And I love this picture. Big Sills with Bobby Orr. I love Bobby Orr. What a great, absolute totally. If you were to tell me, is this guy the greatest hockey player of all time? I would say, yeah. He did things that will never happen. This guy wasn't bad, too. I used to have him in my studio all the time when he was the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know who that is, right? That's Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman was in 18 years. He played in Detroit. And Yzerman was a captain for 17 years on the Detroit Red Wings team that won those Stanley Cups. And he became the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he was just absolutely sensational. Absolutely loved the guy. Hey, real quick, I brought this up with Xander. And Forrest Hill goes, Sills, do you think the NFL will expand to the international like teams in UK and other countries? Forrest, yes. Forrest, why do you think the NFL wants a team in Europe? Hey, Kyle, you met Evgeny Malkin? Heck of a player. Forrest, why do you think they want a team in Europe? Why do you think they want a team, Forrest, in Europe? It's pretty simple. Why they play there now. Jason says that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, but Jason, you think there's a real big audience? More fans to rip off? Kind of close. I have to be honest, I'm worried about these contracts because the cap will probably go down now. More money. Yeah, because you know why? You get to start a game 6 hours before the start of the NFL games on the East Coast. So you get a 6 o'clock game started in Pacific time. In Europe, cash register starts in the morning. So you can start running commercial spots back in the States. And your cash register starts from 6 a.m. and goes to midnight on Sundays. Or whatever, maybe they start doing that on Thursday. I don't know. They do it on Sunday, though. I don't think they do it on any other day. I think they may do it on a holiday. Okay? I think they do it on a holiday. But at the end of the day, that's why they want and play teams in Europe. They play teams in Europe because the National Football League gets to start commercial spots sooner. It's not because they're trying to get Berlin fans. It's a bullshit. It's fool's gold when people are selling you that, because that's not the truth. It's not a reality. They're selling it because when the games start playing, you get to run all of your commercial spots. And because it's an international game, you could probably get to charge $3 or $4 more million per commercial set. Like this coming Super Bowl, $7 million for a 30-second commercial spot. $7 million. And you run about what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You run about 10 commercials in any time in a stop set. That's $70 million every commercial stop set. Think about this too, yo. They played a fifth quarter in the Super Bowl, right? Look at all that money they made, an additional, $100 million? Just in the fact that they played a little bit later. Real quick, I got asked the question the other day. Is there one more move that Howie's going to make? He's got $27.7 million to make a move. What would that move be? He's got cap space. He's got cap space. Why do I feel Bradbury's part of the last move? I don't know where, but why do I feel Bradbury's part of something? I have no insight. But why do I feel there's a move to be made? Does Howie make a move for a player? Send Bradbury? Sign a player? Trade for a player with a... Does he send a draft pick in Bradbury somewhere? For an edge rusher? For a linebacker? It just... The Bradbury thing, it just lingers there. You know what I'm saying? It's just lingering. Dude, Justin Simmons is hanging out there. You know, I mean, have the Eagles contacted him? I'm pretty sure Justin Simmons has talked to him. Hey, let's wait till we get it closer to camp. Let's see what happens. Okay? Guys, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been spectacular. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. Really great week. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Xander, Joe, thank you. 2 to 6 on Monday. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the National Football League. And by the way, 4th of July is right around the corner. Hit the like button on the way out. God bless. See you next week. We'll see you on the flip side.